Perhaps the main reason was poor spending. During Gatland's first tenure, the WRU committed its funds to world-leading training facilities for the national side, but underinvested in the club scene. Despite Ireland raking in similar overall revenues, its union would be committing up to £30 million a year more than Wales to their provincial clubs. In 2023, a report found the WRU had flitted away an £84 million TV deal on the purchase of a Cardiff hotel and a zip wire above the Principality. At the same time, the regional budgets and salary caps were being slashed, and they're still being cut. Add this to a distinct lack of player pathways when compared to the private school-fueled setups in Ireland, Scotland and England, the continuous rise of football's popularity and generational talents going elsewhere. It all meant when Abby Tierney became CEO, having never worked in sport before, she had a mountain to climb. And yet the beauty of sport, of course, is it isn't played in the boardroom, and sometimes it takes surprisingly little for the narrative to shift almost overnight. When Gatland left for the second time, interim coach Matt Sherratt only had 3 training sessions before Wales' next game, but the team looked unrecognisable, and all he did was pick players in the right positions and provide a bit of attacking structure. Suddenly, Wales were back pushing Ireland to the wire. As Gatland's first tenure taught us, for Wales' success to be sustainable, once the books are balanced, the regions need more money, salary caps need boosting, player pathways need investment. But it doesn't have to mean Wales lose every game in the meantime.
Good morning. It's been Oladipo and Jordan for the last week and a half. It certainly has been. You are listening to Talk Sport. Big news overnight that the rematch between Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn is back on. But I guess the question that a lot of you are asking, or at least me and Simon are going to ask, do we need to see a rematch again? Was the first one so good? Could it be one and done? Remember, we do have a boxing hour at 12 to 1 today, not Thursday. Today, Spencer Oliver is going to join us in the studio, as will Anthony Yard. Meanwhile, Russell Martin made 4 big decisions and was vindicated as Rangers won in the Champions League. Son Heung-min's move to America will see him become the most expensive MLS player at 33. Why so expensive? We'll let you know. And we're going to bring you the latest on Benjamin Sesko as well. Looks like he's agreed personal terms with Manchester United. Newcastle missing out on a top target again. This is Ade Oladipo and Simon Jordan on talkSPORT.
100% engagement. Jim White and Simon Jordan on talkSPORT.
Morning, Simon.
You're getting conscious of the cameras?
Yeah, I'm doing this now. Did you see that?
No, I just see you all in black today, which is a slimming device, isn't it?
That's not a slimming device.
Are you sure?
I do look a bit slimmer though, don't I?
Indeed. When you put black on, it's normally because you want to make yourself look a bit
Are you maybe saying that I am a bit...
I'm not saying that. I'm just asking for your motivation.
No.
I'm asking.
No, I just thought I'd try and be a bit neater.
Okay.
Normally I wear T-shirts and, show muscles and tattoos, but every time you wear your suit jackets, I feel severely underdressed. How are you this morning?
I'm all right.
You had a coffee this morning?
I'm fine. I'm good. I had Mr. White on the phone last night telling him how much more I enjoyed the show when he wasn't here. So he's coming back wearing next week.
He's been away for a while.
He's been away for a while.
We do miss a certain Jim White. I do miss you and him going back and forth. I don't know if you miss it as much, but I can't wait for it next week. Talk about going back and forth. Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn are going to go back and forth.
Yeah.
Again.
What it is,
November 15th. What do you make of it?
Backed by popular demands, their wishes are command, I suspect. I am in the business of liking steak, not hamburger. And I think it's a hamburger. but I know that people liked it. I think that all the narratives have been spun out. There'll be some script writers busily creating an opportunity to create some controversy. We've run it all. We've run it back. I mean, I was listening to Johnny Nelson. It's interesting that Johnny now thinks that Conor Benn's going to win this fight, which lays plans to the best laid plans of mice of men for a third fight and an opportunity to wheel in.
One apiece, you got to do it again.
Wheel in the Brinks-Matt delivery of more money for these two guys. Look, I understand why they're fighting. I understand the relevance of the fight economically. I would have liked to see Conor go off and fight for a world title, because I think there's one's available for him to win. But the public loved it.
Yeah,
I was less enamoured by it. I mean, Conor sulking.
Did you watch the first one? I remember. I know you didn't
watch it
go
live. I watched it on the Saturday morning.
Okay,
because I felt if I didn't watch it, I wouldn't have much to say on it on Monday, and everyone would just say you didn't watch it, so how can you have any comment on it? But I wasn't as invested as other people. I sort of said all along that I didn't think it was going to be the greatest of fights. I understand that people did think it was a great fight. It was an honest fight. There were two guys in there putting out their very best because of the
history,
circumstances and the history, and so they should. Yeah. They made such a 4-act play out of it, and they're trading off their fathers' names. The two great fighters were Nigel Benn and Chris Eubanks Sr. These two are poor imitations.
But good imitations.
Well, I think they're... Yeah, listen, we would describe this fight very... First of all, no one would pay 50 grand for it if it wasn't the Eubank and Benn names above the door. And secondly, we would probably describe it differently if we weren't all sucked into the sentimentality and nostalgia trip. You know, Waste is going to earn 500 million quid because of nostalgia. Nostalgia sells. Yeah. So I get it. And I get the fact that there was a lot of...
But then you've got to deliver in the ring.
And they did.
As Oasis have got to perform at Wembley.
And they did. They gave a spectacle. And they gave the very least they could do, which was absolutely leave it all in the ring. As far as quality is concerned, I've been fortunate, as have you, over the last 2 years, because of the change of direction and the money that's been brought into boxing, because of the innovation of Frank Warren and because of the finances of the Saudis, you're seeing all the best fights now. You've got this embarrassment of riches. So whilst I get it and I understand that it's a great British tradition to dig out things like this, I'm not as invested, and people say it's you being miserable. Connor's that doesn't want to talk to me anymore because I dare say anything critical, but I couldn't care less. If people want to watch it, fair play to them. And they're going to get paid a lot of money. The interesting thing will be, can it live up to whatever hype they're going to have to create? Because the deal has been done, the deed has been seen. It's whether we can do something different to capture the public's imagination.
Which is going to be difficult because it almost seemed to tick all the right boxes, didn't it?
Probably will. There's enough money in the room. You know, you can't slap somebody in the face with an egg. You can't call somebody a cheat anymore. You know, you can't reveal that someone's father is now talking to you when they weren't previously. You can't do any of this again. So you've got to do something different.
Yeah.
And they are nothing if not imaginative. And Chris Eubank Jr. is a master at work when it comes to...
Oh, he's fantastic.
It's fabulous to watch. I don't always agree with the things that he says and does, and I didn't like him when he watched Billy Joe Saunders get knocked out or stopped by Canelo Alvarez and revelling in the fact that Billy Joe Saunders had stopped the fight rather than go out on his shield as he thought. But I think when he goes into press conferences and he starts splattergunning people and having the balls to do it, I think fair play to you. It is box office to watch.
It's quite similar to you in that sense.
Well, but that's flattering. But I mean, he is very, very good, very bold, very strong. He can only rehash so much. He can tell Eddie Hearn to shut up so many times now. He can tell his brother-in-law to shut up so many times. We've seen all that, right? We've got to see something different.
What else are you going to do?
Yeah, exactly.
Are you surprised they've not gone to Wembley, considering how big the first one was and how much of a success it was? If you can get an extra 30,000 in there, why wouldn't you go to...
Yeah, I don't know whether the logistics of Wembley at that time were available to them.
True. Yeah, maybe,
whether Daniels made it such an appealing proposition economically that because they want to utilise Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, because they need to monetise it for outside events. I don't know. The fact of the matter is that it was a resounding success. Another 30,000 fans in there might bring in another 3 million quid, or maybe a little bit more. It's
pays for the undercard.
It pays for the undercard, but the undercard will pay for itself in this. I mean, it'll be fascinating to see who's on the undercard. You got any indications of that?
Nothing yet. Hopefully, by the time we do the boxing hour at 12 to 1, we might have a bit more news.
It'll be interesting to see also how Ben Shalom fits into the equation now. Lots of background noise. A lot of money will be made out of the first fight. A lot of money will be made out of the second fight. This might be helping Boxer regain some poise.
What's going on with Ben? Have you heard from Ben? You two have a bit of a relationship.
I've spoken to Ben a couple of times. He will have things to say. He's not going to run around. Obviously, Queensberry and Matchroom are going to dance on his supposed grave because of the loss of the Sky contract. He'll have another broadcast deal. I think he should be communicating better than he is now, because I think he's allowing the vacuum to be filled by other people, and he's allowing noise to be built up. And the one thing in sport, or the two things in sport that are the biggest commodities, are gossip and money, right?
Yeah.
And there's lots of that
A lot
going
of
on.
gossip,
Boxing.
a lot of money.
Yeah. And so, Ben needs to be front and centre controlling his own destiny, but he's captain of his own ship. He'll row the boat how he wants to.
Indeed. Again, we will talk more on that. Ben Eubank, we are having the boxing hour, normally on a Thursday. It will be a Wednesday. Spencer Oliver is going to join us in studio for that as always, as will Anthony Yard, who has a big fight coming up November against David Benavidez. World title fight for Anthony Yard. So it'll be interesting to get his views on all things boxing. Let's talk football now. Rangers, we were talking about it the back end of yesterday's show. They beat Victoria Pilsen 3-0. Happy for Russell Martin. Made some changes.
Yeah.
Made a couple of really big changes. Dropped Captain James Tavernier, dropped their star man Nicholas Raskin. Was asked about that as well after. This is what Russell Martin had to say after the game, after that fantastic 3-0 win.
It's not a concerted effort to out anyone or to try and be something we're not. We're here, we're going to be honest with everyone, and it's served us well so far, and I'm pretty sure it will serve us well again, and we'll be really successful. We just have to get through some teething problems.
There you go.
Yeah,
Squad game.
Well, I also think as a manager, you've got to be bold. You've got to be right, because if you get it wrong and you make bold decisions, then you undermine your own thought processes. And if you win, then you bring people along because you've got no choice. It's a very simple message, I would imagine. It's going to be the way I want it. Step up or step off. And there are no...
You don't normally drop a captain, though, do you? A captain's making a statement, isn't it?
Possibly.
Yeah.
I think James Tavernier is quite a sensible lad and speaks quite well. I've heard him speak in the past. He's obviously been a mainstay at Rangers for a few seasons now. Whether it's a bold decision, whether there are other things behind it, it looks bolder than it actually is, or whether it is a demarcation point, which is this is the way we're going and no one gets spared. It's really simple. You follow the direction I go in, or you don't get on the train.
Yeah.
And it's as simple as that. And I like it because in the end, I know that you've got to manage things, and there's an element of prostituting yourself to get some outcomes in life. But I also think you get nothing by compromises. I think you've got to be definitely right or definitely wrong, but definite. Ideally, definitely right. And so you get people clear in their minds. There's no mixed messages, no mixed metaphors, no misunderstandings. This is how I want us to operate. This is how I expect you to operate. And you drop below these standards, the consequences are no one. It's not tall poppy syndrome. It's basically these are the standards. And I don't think, and if he is, I think it's a foolish way to do. I don't think you take the biggest name out in the dressing room to make a point.
No.
That's an old play.
We've seen it work, not play out well before.
We've seen it worked when they dealt with the boy at Arsenal, when they decided they had enough of him, Aubameyang, and decided that you were going to get out of the club.
Remember Ruud Gullit tried to do it to Alan Shearer?
Yeah, it's funny because I spent a bit of time with Ruud, and you don't see that sort of attitude from him because he's the nicest, most happy-go-lucky bloke you could ever meet.
Yeah.
Yet there was that standoff with Shearer, and you remember seeing Shearer on the bench against Sunderland, don't you?
That's the one. That's the image.
And it didn't play out, did it? Yeah. But he got a result. And let's be honest, they should beat this side.
Yeah.
But they've now put themselves in a situation where good work has been done. It'd be interesting to see how I don't know who they got on the weekend, but it'd be interesting to see how Dundee. So they need to cement these wins with backup wins and build momentum. So well done, Russell. Well done.
Now, one thing that was interesting, and this always seems to happen when a big name player gets dropped. It happened at Manchester United. I remember the Garnacho sort of period of being dropped and teams being leaked. It happened certainly with Ange Postecoglou, and he spoke about a rat within the squad and someone leaking it. This team got leaked 8 hours before kickoff. And look, maybe it's just a coincidence that a couple of big name players have been dropped and it's being leaked. But that's something he's going to need to somehow stamp out. I don't know how he does it, but he's going to need to find the root of that issue.
Yeah, he is. I mean, it'll find its level. I mean, in the end, what you do is you build an environment where you are collective. At this moment in time is a little bit, I suspect, of him imposing his will, creating the environment, setting out the standards and ensuring everybody knows, every footballer knows. I don't think it's a cardinal sin. I don't think it matters this much in this day and age, but it's a basic principle is trust. And if you haven't got that, then you've got an erosion. I've always believed in football, and like in business, is a 4-4-2 rule, like the football formula, which is 4 people are with you, 4 people are sitting on the fence, and 2 people you can never get with you. You can give them 364 days a year paid holiday, and they still hate you. Right? Don't worry about those guys. Worry about the 4 guys sitting on the fence. And if you've got 2 of those guys coming over to your side of the fence, you've got a quorum in the dressing room, and that's what he will be creating. And they will self-police. They will self-regulate. That's the perfect dressing room. When a manager walks into a dressing room and he has to hold back the captain or the leading voices, that's a good dressing room. Yeah. That's a dressing room that self-polices and regulates, and senior pros are making sure that people understand what the standards are. It's not creating silly little fanny like leadership groups. It's creating a culture of people taking responsibility and accountability and setting standards that are 3-line whipped by the manager, but all reinforced by the dressing room.
All right, you're listening to Oladipo and Jordan on talkSPORT with Selco Builders Warehouse. It's where the trade go. Up next, we're going to be speaking to our chief football correspondent, Alex Crook, about the latest transfer news. Benjamin Sesko, as always, as he has been in the last few days, dominating the news once again. Ade Oladipo, Simon Jordan on talkSPORT with you until 1 o'clock. Holly Varney is going to join us, COO of Kick It Out. She's going to talk about the unfortunate record numbers of discrimination online and what everyone can do as a collective, mainly social media companies, and what they can do as well as broadcasters as well. Now, though, we are going to turn our attention to transfer news. Alex Crook has been kind enough to join us, our chief football correspondent. Alex, let's get straight to the Benjamin Sesko situation. Yesterday when we spoke, it was a case of Man United or Newcastle. It seems as though it's all now Manchester United. We're hearing personal terms have been agreed. What can you tell us?
Yeah, I think Newcastle always feared that this would happen. Obviously, they put their bid in over the weekend for Benjamin Sesko. He was holding out for a rival offer from Manchester United. I'm told this morning Newcastle are now resigned to the fact that Sesko appears to be destined for Old Trafford. Leipzig haven't accepted Manchester United's latest bid, or their opening bid as yet, €75 million plus £10 million in add-ons, but Šeško has verbally agreed personal terms on this move to United. And I think Ruben Amorim will see this as the final piece in his attacking jigsaw. They've spent big money already this summer on Matheus Cunha and Brian Mbeumo. Amorim always wanted a recognised number 9 as well. What does it mean for Rasmus Højlund? Well, we've been reporting for a few days now that Manchester United are willing to cash in on him for as little as £30 million. He had wanted to stay and fight for his place at United, but with Šeško incoming, you wonder if that stance may change. They only scored 44 goals in the Premier League last season, Manchester United, so no surprise that Ruben Amorim has really targeted the top end of the pitch during this summer window. But it's yet another deal that Newcastle haven't quite managed to get over the line. They've been ambitious. They've made a big money offer that Leipzig were prepared to accept. But as I say, I think lurking in the background was always the concern that Manchester United would come in and hijack.
Yeah, is this just the case of the pecking order of football? United have lost out. Newcastle United have lost out on Ekatike. They've lost out on Sesko. They were in discussions for Gahey. That hasn't happened. Cunha and Mbeumo, João Pedro, Delat. We can go on and on and on. Why are they losing out on this? This is a big club. This is a team that has Champions League football. It's a fantastic manager in Eddie Howe. I think the project up there is incredible as well. So many good players. What's going on with Newcastle and getting these deals over the line?
I think they've been unlucky, to be honest, because they've been ambitious with their targets. They started the summer speaking to Dean Howson when he was at Bournemouth, but once Real Madrid came in, there was only one destination for him. I think João Pedro always wanted to go to London, and obviously Chelsea can offer Champions League football, as can Newcastle. Brian Mbeumo did sit down and talk personal terms with Newcastle, but I don't think they could match the wage package on offer at Manchester United. But rather than this being a snub for Newcastle, I think we've seen this summer that despite the fact they're at their lowest ebb since the 1970s, Manchester United do have that pulling power. And Mbeumo only ever wanted to go there. Matheus Cunha didn't seem particularly fussed. They couldn't offer Champions League football this season. And Benjamin Šeško has played in the Champions League with Leipzig for the last 3 seasons, but seemingly that's not top of his agenda either. People still want to play for Manchester United. They can still offer top dollar in terms of wages.
Yeah, we spoke yesterday and I asked you, if you were Šeško, where would you go? I think you mentioned Newcastle.
Absolutely.
It looks like he's going to go United.
Yeah, coming from Wolves and Brentford, there was always this mentality of stepping back into Man United, irrespective of how poor Man United actually are, is a massive opportunity, and because of their history. You know, it's a difficult one for Newcastle because Newcastle are fishing in the same pond now as the established order.
Yeah.
They shouldn't lose out on transactions because of economics. And I wonder what woos they're pitching, because part and parcel of how you get a player, curate an opportunity for a player, is create a level of excitement in him and a level of motivation, so you change the direction of his thinking. And I wonder, I don't know if Alex is able to put some meat on the bone as to who is creating the dynamic between Newcastle as a proposition and the player's mentality. Who's doing these deals or not doing these deals from Newcastle's side, Alex?
Well, this was a deal that the owners actually took control of. I know that Jamie Rubin has been heavily involved, and on the Saudi side as well. Before that, Andy Howe, who's sort of the de facto sporting director with Paul Mitchell having left the club, were trying to get deals over the line. But as I say, the owners took control of the Šeško negotiations. They made a really attractive proposal to RB Leipzig, one the German club were prepared to accept. But like Andy and Eddie Howe before them, they've not quite been able to get it over the line, it seems.
But are they talking to the player? I mean, it's one thing putting a commercial proposition to the club. The club will bite your hand off for the best deal. The club aren't worried about who it goes to. The club are worried about how much money they're going to get. The dynamic of pitching it to the player, is it getting to that point that they are having these sort of conversations, really drilling down on the opportunity and the scale, the size, the potential of Newcastle United, and dispelling some of the myths that may be perpetuated about what it's like to play for Newcastle up in the northeast? Is that happening, or are they still one step removed from having the dynamic direct with the player and his agent?
Well, I know when it came to Liam Delap, he was really impressed with Eddie Howe. So clearly there was a face-to-face meeting that took place there. But again, I think once Chelsea came calling, Newcastle struggled to persuade him to go to St James's Park. This Šeško deal has been a very different approach from Newcastle and Manchester United. I think Newcastle were determined to get the agreement with RB Leipzig now down before they got too far down the line in terms of negotiations with Šeško. Manchester United did it the other way round, and as is common practice really now in modern transfer negotiations, they got buy-in from the player before making their bid to Leipzig. So Newcastle tried to be aggressive in terms of negotiations with Leipzig, but meanwhile Manchester United were talking to Šeško and told him, I think, there is a bid incoming, just keep your powder dry for now.
Okay, what does this mean? Newcastle failing to get Šeško for Alexander Isak. It almost felt as though it will be 1 in, 1 out. Šeško comes in, Newcastle will I say happily, but not happily, but allow Isak to go to Liverpool. What does it mean now for Isak?
I think it makes it difficult for Alexander Isak to get that move to Liverpool that he wants this summer. Newcastle still in talks with Johan Wisser, and there seems to be a bit more confidence they can get that deal done than there was a week or two ago when Brentford were digging their heels. And they do have alternative targets, the likes of Ollie Watkins, Lois Openda, who is really highly rated, and they've been offered Nicholas Jackson, who Chelsea are keen to cash in on. I think maybe if they got a Nicholas Jackson or an Ollie Watkins in addition to Wisser, then perhaps they would be more open to Liverpool coming back in with a bid. But as we sit here now, and the Šeško deal looks like it's collapsed from underneath them, I think that reduces the possibility of Isak leaving this window. And this is where Eddie Howe's man management comes in. He's got an unhappy player, clearly one who is pushing for the exit door, that he needs to convince that actually Newcastle is the place to be. They are an ambitious project. They can offer Champions League football. I don't think he's going to sign a new contract, Alexander Isak. So even if he does stay, I think Newcastle are going to have the same issues in January and certainly again when next summer's transfer window comes around.
Why is Ollie Watkins being the constant subject of conversation about leaving Villa and going to other clubs? Why is Ollie Watkins the constant sort of, not make weight, but we can get Ollie Watkins at this club, we can get Ollie Watkins at that? Why is that happening so much?
Well, I don't know if they're convinced they can get Ollie Watkins out of Aston Villa. Certainly when Manchester United asked the question, Villa were suggesting he wasn't for sale and that only a bid of £60 million plus would change that stance. They are themselves bringing in a new striker in Evan Guessand from the French league, but that's probably more of a replacement for John Duran, who obviously departed for Saudi Arabia, than it is for Ollie Watkins. I think the fact that Watkins is on so many people's lists, probably not top of many people's lists, but certainly on those lists, suggests what we know, really, what we've been talking about all summer, that there is a dearth of number 9s around the globe, and certainly a dearth of number 9s proven in the Premier League, as Watkins is.
How would you want Eddie Howe, if you were the owners of Newcastle Football Club, how would you want Eddie Howe to handle this Isak situation? How difficult is it for Eddie now?
Well, I mean, he's an experienced manager. This won't be the first player that's not been happy about certain circumstances, and it tends to be more made of it in the media than it actually happens on the ground. Once people accept the reality of their circumstances, they have a tendency to get on with it. I think Eddie will handle it quite easily. I mean, the big problem is how Isak. I don't think Isak has got the balls to put a transfer request in and really start to rock the apple cart and make it so difficult, unless he gets some real reinforcement from Liverpool that goes above 100. I don't think Newcastle are going to sell him for 110 million quid. They might move from 150, they might go to 120, 125, but I don't think they're going to sell him for Liverpool's first offer. So
will they sell even if they don't get a replacement striker in? Do you think if Liverpool do go for the let's say 130 is the number, and they don't get a replacement striker in of the calibre of Šeško, will Newcastle still sell?
I mean, Newcastle will get somebody in. It's a case of what they get in. And of course, if you want to conduct your business through the optics of the media and what the media thinks is a good signing, you'll find yourself falling foul every time of the standards that other people set for you. I mean, Eddie is in a difficult position because Isak is a top player. There are so few of them around. And he's got him. Newcastle, despite the protestations of people that want to blame, despite the Craig Hopes of the world that want to find fault in everything and want to tell you now that the PIF ownership is abdicating responsibility and not doing what it said it was going to do, and all of this nonsense, which helps nobody, creates no opportunity for everything. What exactly could Newcastle have done? They put the guy on a 5-year contract. He's got 3 years left. They've protected their position. Even if they'd have given him a pay rise, Liverpool would have just matched the pay rise and he'd still want to go to Liverpool. So there's no point giving him a pay rise because all you're going to do is give him a pay rise for him to do the same bloody thing. Oh, he might have changed his mind. No, he wouldn't. He wanted to go and play for Liverpool. And if the Liverpool deal doesn't happen, it will happen. It's not a case of if Alexander Isak leaves, it's a case of when. In an ideal world, you want Newcastle to have him this season and let him go next season and give themselves enough latitude to have another season of success, another building of the image of Newcastle in the minds of players like this boy that's gone to Man United, who I think has made a mistake. I think Man United is just an image right now rather than a reality, and Newcastle is a club with momentum.
Yeah.
And a manager that's got traction. And I think that's what you should be looking for as a footballer, rather than what you imagine in your mind's eye was once upon a time the greatest club in English football.
Crookie, appreciate you coming on as always, our chief football correspondent. And that's Crook. We didn't get a chance to talk about Harvey Elliott. That could be happening as well. Harvey Elliott going to RB Leipzig, which could be interesting because so many young English players now are going abroad. Hopefully, we might be able to discuss it in the show. All right, lots of points there covered with Alex Crook. You may want to get in touch as well. I think Newcastle fans are going to want to get in touch. Again, I read it out. These are the players that you've tried to sign in the last couple of weeks or last month or so and haven't. Ekitike, Sesko, Gehi, Cunha, Mbeumo, João Pedro, Liam Delap. Is there a problem of Newcastle attracting the top players to St James's Park? Phone lines are open, 03717 2244. You can text us 81089.
It's not often you associate fan power with Chelsea Football Club, but one of the shining examples of it lies with a group called the Chelsea Pitch Owners. And they've proved to be the thorn in the side of owners past and present who've been dead set on moving stadiums to a larger, more lucrative piece of land. Essentially, the supporters group holds the freehold to the land on which Stamford Bridge sits. Former owner Ken Bates set it up at a time where some unruly property developers tried to evict the club from their ground. In order to prevent this, he established the CPO as a company that owned the pitch and offered the fans the chance to buy a share for £100. As well as that, they also own the rights to the name Chelsea Football Club, so if any owner wants to take them elsewhere, they can't be called Chelsea without the approval from the CPO. Now in 2011, Roman Abramovich tried and failed to move them away from Stamford Bridge, and this has set a precedent for Todd Bowley and the current power brokers at Chelsea. They know any plan which involves moving from Stamford Bridge will require CPO approval from the now 13,000 fans who own it. There are fans who are concerned that if they stay at the bridge, they'll be left behind their domestic and European rivals who are moving to more commercially successful stadiums. But for the heritage and history lovers, Stamford Bridge is one of the iconic English stadiums, and to move away would be a grave mistake. It might not be as flashy as others, but stadiums like it have something about them that cannot be replaced. One thing's for sure, if Bowley wants to take Chelsea away from their home, he'll have to go through the CPO first.
Good morning, Ade Oladipo, Simon Jordan. We're on talkSPORT until 1 o'clock. We are talking Newcastle at the moment, and we're going to expand it out to other teams. But Newcastle are in the headlines just because it looks like Benjamin Sesko, their target, may be to replace Alexander Isak's on his way to Manchester United. We've been asking you to call in and text in, and you're doing that in your droves. Remember, phone lines are open, 03717 22 3344. You can text us as well, 81089, as Abby has done from Glasgow. Says, hi guys, can you ask Simon this question? If a different, more well-established manager had been in charge of Newcastle, does he think it would have been a different matter with Sesko? I guess we can broaden it out to all the signings that I've read out before the break.
Depends what you think a better, more established manager looks like. I think Eddie Howe's profile, reputation and regard is in quite high order. I mean, he's likely to probably be the next England manager. I think he conducts himself excellently. He's team player, brand of football that most people enjoy watching. And they've won a League Cup and got into the Champions League. Now, yes, he doesn't have the stardust name of XYZ manager, whether it's Mourinho from the past or whether it's XYZ.
Or Guardiola.
Yeah. But he still has enough cachet and presence and wherewithal to attract people's attention. Yeah. And of course, players in the dressing room are a big part of that as well. The players that know one another across the circuit, across the industry. You know, you've got some names in there like Tonali that have played in big clubs, and players that are in other areas that are big players. That will be part of the equation.
This one's coming. Newcastle are only a big club in Newcastle. One trophy in 70 years. United have been bleep for 12 years and still won trophies.
Yeah, we agree. I mean, I always say that. I used to say it to the late Freddie Shepherd. You're a big club in Newcastle, but they're a big club. And their noise is significant now. And yes, they're right. They've only won one trophy, and the whole nation came out in seemingly admiration for Newcastle winning the trophy, and didn't quite seem to get the same energy in the media for Palace winning the FA Cup, which is the bigger cup. Anyway, put aside my personal bias in that instance. I think that Man United has all the appeal that we know it has, but it has all the challenges. That it's a mess. It's got fans that are protesting the first game of the season. It's got people that aren't performing at levels. It's got people that there's an exodus of players that are supposedly top players that don't want to be there. You've got a manager that pees all over it every time he possibly can. You've got owners that no one likes. And you've got the huge pressure and expectation of a club that does carry all that legacy. So there's lots of reasons why Manchester United is not... shouldn't be the given choice. And I without being critical, because I'm not privy to the conversations, people have got to up their games at Newcastle, perhaps, and up the woo that they're pitching. In terms of that one-to-one direct pitch, as opposed to going through agents. If Alex is to believe that the strategy was to secure the club, the club is the easiest part of the equation to secure. Just pay them what they want. The player is the more difficult part of the equation. The player is the one that needs to be convinced. The player is the challenging aspect. The club you can sort out, because the club will take the best offer.
It's geographical sort of issues a reason here. This is coming from Kenneth, who says, I think Newcastle are struggling because where Newcastle is, players want to live in the northwest or London over Newcastle. Is that still a thing?
Yeah, well, it's certainly London is a pull, isn't it? And that people will say, well, it's because you're a southerner. No, it's because it's a pull to international. People think of London when they think of England. They don't think of rainy days in Manchester, do they? And they might do because they've got a music scene there, and Oasis alive and current right now. Man United is such an iconic football club. And Man City have been the best football club for the last 10 years in terms of achievements. And Newcastle comes with that a little bit of stigma as to where it is a beautiful part of the world. Yeah. And it's a fabulous town, and it's a great football club. And they've just got to work harder. They've got to work harder on creating the optics and re-evaluating in people's minds that we're owned by the richest people in sport. Yep. We're owned by huge opportunities and huge influence. Look at what we're doing in boxing in our space here. Look at what we're trying to do with golf. We're now going to do it with football. Newcastle is our club that we're going to achieve it through. And we've got potentially the next England manager in our dugout, and we've got a whole raft of things. We've got top players. Look what we did to Joe Linton. It's all about making sure that people get the right message, and it's easier said than done, and I'm sure they're doing a lot of that, but we're in an outcome business. And if the outcomes aren't where you want them to be, then you've got to reevaluate your pitch. And if Alex is right that the pitch was made to the club rather than the player, and probably somewhere in the middle is the truth, then they've got to do better. Yeah. Because if you lose out, they lost out to Man United. They didn't even get off, irrespective of what people think about the boy from Brentford going to Man United, they didn't get off the starters grid with that. He'd already made his decision before anything. So that was a preordained bias. I'm not sure the same can be said of the boy that they've just missed out on.
Yeah. Now, some might say, look, the players they've missed out on have gone to Chelsea, Manchester United, and Gahey's still standing at Crystal Palace looking for a Liverpool move. So maybe it's just a pecking order thing.
It is a little bit,
well.
yeah.
All right, let's go to the phone lines. Mick, the Newcastle fan, is on the line. Mick, what do you make of what's going on? It looks like, although you did put in a big bid for Šeško, it looks like he's deciding to go to Manchester United as opposed to your club.
Yeah, well, what I would say is that this financial fair play thing is an absolute joke. They should really rename it the Newcastle United restriction policy because, Simon, you can talk about all those things that you've talked about. The bottom line is, if somebody's going to offer you £200,000 because we can't go any higher than that, and another club's going to offer you £300,000, it doesn't matter. If the roles were reversed and we could offer 300, Man U could offer 2, the player would come to Newcastle United. It's purely about the finances of the player. Why would they go for £100,000 a week less? The word doesn't make sense at all. But, and we've been restricted just like Aston Villa has,
And I agree with all of that. But what is the indication that suggests that Newcastle are having such PSR restrictions that they can't meet these wages?
Well, because obviously, if you can only pay so many £300,000, you've got to keep everybody happy, haven't you? You've got to keep a happy changing room. So if somebody comes in at 300 and you've got to Bruno on 120, they're all going to be wanting to be paid roughly around about the same.
But again, I ask you again. I don't think there's any indication that Newcastle haven't got headroom in their capability to meet. I understand what you're saying, which is that if one gets it, they'll all want it. If he gets up, they'll all get up. It'll be anarchy. I understand that. But Newcastle don't seem to me unable to meet these obligations. They may not want to. And I'm also curious about the Saudi attitude, because the Saudis aren't pushing the envelope.
No.
They're not challenging the orthodoxy. They're not pushing back against it. They seem to be awfully compliant with playing ball with the football establishment. They've gone into golf. They don't care about breaking up the golf establishment. They run roughshod through boxing. Yet in football terms, they seem to have bought a football club, harnessed it, told the world that they're going to be very motivated, and yet they're not pushing the envelope and challenging the orthodoxy. Marinakis is challenging it. He's gone, sod it, I'll have a go and I'm going to spend whatever I want. And Newcastle don't seem to be doing the same thing. What do you make of that?
Well, to be honest, Simon, you've actually echoed the words of so many fans up here now who are actually questioning what's happening with the stadium, what's happening with the infrastructure, with the with the director of football going. So those questions are being asked by a lot of fans now. Because we thought that they were going to be pushing everything. We thought that they would be putting big bids in. Which apparently they have with Man U, but we still think it's we still think that it's to do with players' wages. I mean, you get an agent, and I know you love agents, Simon. But I mean, what happens to these agents who negotiate a 6-year contract and the client only does 50% of the contract? Why do the agents get the full money? Why isn't there like a clause back to say, well, hold on, mate, you've negotiated that. We want half of our money back that we paid.
But they will. The thing about the agents, and don't be under the illusion that they get all their money up front, a lot of them will get the money on the drip. So they will be paid their fees over a proportion of the contract. So if they break the contract, they might get a kicker from the buying club that tops them up, but they will not be getting. So if they get 10 million from moving Isak from wherever he came to Newcastle, that will be paid over the period of his contract. So if they move him out, then Newcastle wouldn't be paying the rest of the agent's fees.
100%. Let's quickly go to Craig. Great call, mate. Let's go to Craig as well, Newcastle fan, disgruntled Newcastle fan. He's made the move to United, or it looks like that will happen in the next sort of day or so. You're missing out on all your big targets here, Craig. You must be disappointed.
Listen, I'm astounded. Absolutely astounded. How is it, right, that a club like Manchester United, now listen, don't get us wrong, in the past, a club to be reckoned with under the leadership and stewardship of Mr. Alex Ferguson, or Sir Alex. But since that time, how many managers have had, right? How many millions and millions of pounds in debt are there? How many? I mean,
you're basically saying you're more attractive than United, right?
Yeah, well, they finished 15th in the Premier League last season, and that was no fluke. That was because how badly it is down there now, right? They've got a stadium that's fallen apart. They've cancelled the lunches for the staff. So if that's the case, if they're cancelling lunches for the staff, what are they cancelling next season to pay for Šeško? Can you answer that one for us?
Craig, that should send more alarm bells, I think, to you than it is to United. The fact that you list all those things that Manchester United don't have anymore, and yet they're still able to get all the targets that you want. If I'm a Newcastle fan, I'd be more concerned about why are the reasons that my club can't attract all these players, yet Man United are that great behemoth that are on their knees and they still can.
I would be interested to find out exactly why, but I just think, again, it's one of those situations where okay, we'll let Newcastle put a bid in and then we'll come in underneath them. That's the scary bit, because obviously we put a better deal together for the player. There was more money up front, there was more money with added bonuses, and he still chose to go to Man United. Well, fair play to you, mate, off your pop, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But Newcastle United, will we be worse off without him? Well, that depends on who else we can bring in here.
It does.
For me, I'll put my house, my car, and every penny that I've got. The Newcastle will finish higher than Manchester United this season. There you go.
Possibly. He had a good season last season. You know, when we talk about Isak wanting to leave, and whatever proposal Newcastle put on the table, he isn't going to accept. If you're Isak and you're looking at this situation and thinking, okay, I was sold a project as well, I've done my parts in this project in terms of being a great player, we're not attracting the players that I was promised were going to come to the club.
Well, you heard Martin O'Neill's reaction to that. They should mind their own business and get on with what they're getting.
They should, but players want to be around successful
only
players.
if you keep on telling players that they'll be tired, they'll be tired. If you keep on telling players that need player welfare, then you'll get Rodri coming out saying we're going to go on strike. There's a balance between what players actually think and what they're led into thinking they should be thinking. Isak doesn't have any right to suggest to Newcastle who they buy and who they don't buy. Isak is part of a project. He's been rewarded, and I hate the word project, but he's part of a team that's going relatively well. The challenge for Newcastle is you can turn around and point your finger at other clubs and say, well, why they're going there. You've got to ask yourself why they're leaving you. Yeah. i.e. they're not even joining you and others are leaving you. And there's been indications that, in the past that Gimme Areas might be someone that other people want to acquire. Newcastle have got to move the needle, if the ownership wants to, and change the perception in the wider public, in the wider community, not the public, in the wider community of football, that they're a serious, big-time player that is on a par with the Manchester Uniteds of the world in the here and now. So going to Man United is a fool's errand for you.
Why was City able to do it?
Of different time,
yeah,
because they didn't have the restrictions. City and Chelsea just went
bang.
The three of them. Jack Walker did it with Blackburn. Roman Abramovich comes in and does it with Chelsea, and Sheikh Mansour did it with Manchester City. They weren't governed, and that's the unfairness of timing. That's the unfairness of the circumstances for Newcastle. But it doesn't alter the fact that you would have expected if they need to build a new stadium. It falls out of their pocket on the way to the stadium. The amount of money these guys have got. Why aren't they doing this? If they need to build a new training ground, why aren't they doing this? Why aren't they monetising the things that they can monetise that don't have any cost implications to PSR? Because you put front money into capital expenditure like stadiums. That's not a PSR affecting outcome. That's a structural thing. Doesn't go to your PSR. So you can build your new stadium if you want to. You go build your new stadium if that's what you want to do, improve St James's Park or whatever it is you're going to do, because it seems to me that the fans are beginning to question. Of course they're questioning when you've got journalists writing everything they possibly can to create an outcome that creates controversy, because controversy sells. I would suspect that, if you rolled back 3 years and said, in an ideal world, you get rid of Ashley, you don't buy Lionel Messi, but you do put a club that's at the top of the Premier League now in terms of its occupying Champions League spots. It's won a tournament, it's won a cup, and it's attracting decent players, and it's got a player on its books that wants to leave, but they still can get 120, 130 million quid. Most Newcastle fans at that time would have said,
bite your arm off
at the shoulder.
Bite your hand off.
Now, what we've got is people writing out, this is not good enough. This is the nature of the business.
It certainly is. All right, you're listening to Oladipo and Jordan on talkSPORT with Selco Beatles Warehouse. Check out this month's real deals at selcobw.com. Up next, we're going to be looking at Son Heung-min's becoming the most expensive MLS player ever. Good morning, Ade Oladipo, Simon Jordan on talkSPORT. Spence Oliver's going to join us in studio, as is Anthony Yard at 12 o'clock for the boxing hour. Obviously, we're going to talk a lot about Chris Eubank Jr. versus Conor
I like
Benn.
Anthony Yard.
Yeah.
I like Anthony Yard. Sometimes I can do about Tundi, but I like Anthony Yard. I do think
They normally come as a package. So
I know they do. I do think David Benavidez is going to win this fight, but Anthony is an entertaining prospect.
He will definitely
Noble
put on a
loser,
show.
though, at the moment. A noble loser. Puts up a good performance for the first half of the fight.
He needs a big one, doesn't he?
He does.
He needs a big one. This is a big task for him, but I guess the risk-reward is quite a good thing for Anthony.
The irony of the fact that he fell out with Frank, yet Frank gets him the best title shots, gets him Kovalov, gets him Beterbiev.
Gets him the big fights.
Now got him Benavidez.
Gets him the big fights.
He does.
Let's focus on Heung-min's song. We've not really spoken about him. We've had so many different subjects on this show. He's obviously made the move from Tottenham to LAFC. Tottenham signed him in 2015 for £22 million. Tottenham have sold him to LAFC for £20 million. That's a bit of a masterstroke, I think, from Daniel Levy. I guess the question is, have they bought him for that fee based off what he can do off the pitch in terms of selling shirts and merchandise and everything?
No, I think that was just a fortunate byproduct. I mean, the fee at the time, £20 million 10 years ago, is probably £40 million now with inflation.
But he's not worth 20 million quid now, is he, Son? At 33?
He is to the MLS. Must be. Because I mean, when I was in America doing this television show and going to see Inter Miami, right, and I went through all the airports. I went to New York to see the New York guys, went to see the MLS, went from there down to watch Inter Miami versus St. Louis, and you go through the airports, and all of the airports have Son
He's
images,
massive.
whether it be luggage or things of that nature. I think that's an associated benefit. They didn't buy him from that purpose. They bought him because he was a decent footballer, and they got him at what probably was a reasonable price. And now the MLS, the Messi transaction, it'll be interesting to see who's funding this, because the Messi transaction was in part funded by the Apple broadcasting deal. Yeah. So that Messi gets a carve out from Apple.
Oh, you see that potentially Apple could have.
Well, I don't see. I mean, Apple. What I hear about the Apple deal is not working that well, and the ergonomics of how you connect to it isn't great. So they aren't getting the audience that they thought they were going to go. But they paid £250 million a season, 2.5 billion over 10 years, which was the biggest broadcast deal they've done in American soccer. Still small beer compared to what we're getting in the Premier League, but notwithstanding a massive departure from the 2 and 6 they were getting previously. And part of that was a funding exercise to Messi. So it'll be interesting to see how this transaction plays out, because they don't tend to want to spend money on transfer fees. Also, the nature of how it's set up is that the league tends to own the players rather than the clubs. So it's a strange dynamic, but I think it's the right move.
Is that a thing, by the way? Sorry to cross you there, sorry. Is that a thing in transfer fees? If Liverpool signing Florian Wirtz, is it based off, okay, Florian Wirtz is going to sell X amount of shirts and we then recoup some of the money from that? Is that part of a fee nowadays?
Well, the commercialisation of a player forms, it depends what deal you've done with his image rights. Depends if you've got a complete buyout, because a lot of players don't allow you to have that, and ultimately he's a football player, so he's coming to achieve football things. But you will leverage it as much as you possibly can, and you'll lever it. Now, the old idea that Beckham was sold to the Galaxy for shirts deals, not really. The underpinning aspect of Beckham's deal was that he got the next expansion franchise off the rack. So Beckham, part of his deal, he would never pay for it himself. Everyone else would pay for it, but he created the opportunity. And the £125,000 a week that he was getting in 2007 was all nonsense. I mean, Tony Stevens was his agent. It was a great deal that they did and a great opportunity to go to America and create the Beckham effect and the Beckham rule. Which is about the exceptional player item, isn't it? In terms of a different budgeting respect for a player that's an individual that's dealt with in a different way, comes outside of the salary caps. Listen, I think it's a great piece of business. I don't think it's a masterstroke from Daniel. He can't rinse money out of America unless they want to give it to him. They'll see the benefits of it. They'll see the player. I mean, I think his best days are quite some way behind him. Yeah. And I think to get 20 million quid is a decent deal for Tottenham. And an interesting opportunity for him, because I'm sure he could have gone to Saudi, and I'm sure he could have lined his pockets even more extensively in that space. But going to America creates a different opportunity. Messi went there, didn't he? Because his wife liked Miami. She liked that side of things. It was all a big part of it. And it was supplemented, his salary was supplemented, as I say, by the Apple broadcasting deal.
An all-time Spurs great, Son? I guess that's the debate that starts now.
I mean, there aren't that many of them, are there, in recent times? I mean, with due respect to Tottenham fans, there aren't. You can go back to the push and run side of 1961 or whatever it was when Bill Nick was there, but there ain't that many. Glenn was, of course, one. Yeah, Glenn. And Harry Kane, of course. Yeah. But Ozzy and Ricardo Villa.
Gascoigne.
Yeah. And Paul Gascoigne. Maybe. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But that, I mean, we can name maybe 10 over the last 10 or 20 years.
He gets into that, doesn't he?
Yeah. I mean, I think he's symptomatic of what Tottenham are. because he clearly wasn't good enough to be at one of the biggest clubs in English football.
Even at his pomp. So 5 years ago when he was scoring 22 a season.
Did anyone really...
No, I don't think there was ever a bid for him from anyone else.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we may be missing something, but he's symptomatic of what Tottenham are, which is close enough to get a whiff, but not an opportunity to, really to be as successful as you'd like to think Tottenham could have been with the opportunities that they've had with their non-appearance in the 2019 Champions League when they just didn't turn up, and the opportunities that people will perceive that they lost because Daniel didn't back Mauricio Pochettino when they had a side and whatever else. And Son seems to be a sort of a very good player. You remember these wonder goals, was it against Burnley that he scored a wonder goal from one end of the pitch to the other, and the fact that he was a very good player in a decent side when Harry Kane was in it. But I thought he was going to step up more. I thought that when Kane left, he was going to fill the vacuum.
It will be his team, and it was never.
It wasn't, was it?
No, it didn't never feel like it. Yeah, it didn't. But Son now will be part of what's going on, this expansion into MLS. He'll be playing for LAFC next season. All right, up next, we're going to be speaking to Kick It Out CEO Sam Okafor about the reported rise in discrimination cases in football.
Wondered why Erling Haaland scores a hat-trick instead of just 3 goals? Why Darwin Núñez is said to have missed a sitter rather than just missing a really easy shot? Or why on earth defenders are said to park the bus? Let's break down some of our favourite football cliches. First, let's talk hat-tricks. The term comes from cricket back in the 1800s. Any bowler who managed to get 3 successive wickets used to be rewarded with a hat from their club. Next up, if you see a skillful tackle, an athletic save or a 40-yard screamer, you might say these things are out the top drawer. That's because back in Victorian times, if you had wealth, valuable stuff, you kept it in the top drawer of your dresser, so loaded families became known as top drawer. Remember the last time your team left you feeling as sick as a parrot? The image of the sick bird is thought to come from a classic British comedy moment, Monty Python's Dead Parrot sketch, but the phrase was first used in football by Liverpool defender Phil Thompson. He supposedly said it after Liverpool lost to Nottingham Forest in the 1978 League Cup final. Forest won thanks to a controversial penalty given away by a Thompson foul, even though it was actually outside the box. Poor guy said he felt sick as a parrot afterwards. Is there anything more embarrassing than a nutmeg in football? Weird name, but it's actually related to the trading of nutmeg, the spice. It was so expensive back in the day that corrupt exporters used to try and mix in a bit of wood in with the nutmeg to cut their costs. The term soon became slang. If you were nutmegged, it was because the person you were buying off had pulled a fast one on you. Jose Mourinho brought a lot of things to English football, and seems like one of those was the phrase "park the bus." He used it after his Chelsea side had been held to a goalless draw by Spurs in 2004. Tottenham had been extremely defensive, not trying to score, but making sure Chelsea couldn't either. Mourinho actually said, "They brought the bus and left the bus in front of the goal," as we say in my country. Finally, another phrase that actually comes from cricket. Footballers are said to have missed a sitter if they miss an easy chance. In the late 19th century, it was used in cricket to describe a moment when a fielder failed to take a catch which was so easy they should have been able to catch it sitting down. So there you have it, some of your favourite footballing cliches. And if you think this video is all over, well, it is now.
Good morning, you're listening to Ade Oladipo, Simon Jordan with you until 1 o'clock. Remember, there's the boxing hour coming up at 12 o'clock. Should be a good one as well. Loads to talk about right now in the world of boxing. As ever, boxing is the sport that just continues to give and give and give and grow and grow and grow. Boxing fans are very, very happy about it. Let's switch our attention now, though, to a difficult conversation, just because we all would like it to almost vanish and disappear. And that's the rise of discrimination online. Let's welcome in, kick it out, CEO Sam Okafor. Sam, really appreciate you coming in. Now, I've got the numbers in front of me that incidents have risen this year, or at least in the football season, from 1,332 published last year to nearly 1,400 this year. Reports of sexism and misogyny have rose as well by 67%. Faith-based abuse has climbed from 117 to 132. What's going on? Why the rise in everything, do you think?
Well, look, I think, first of all, thank you for having us on. I think, in terms of the numbers that you quoted, yes, it's the fourth consecutive year that we've seen a rise in reports into Kick It Out. So just under 1,400 reports that have come in. We've seen racism, reports of racist discrimination making up just under half of overall reports. Rise in sexism and misogyny, 67%. We've seen that as the women's game continues to grow and has great success. We've seen that's also taken to a rise in sexism and misogyny, particularly, I think, to highlight the abuse towards black players, black female players, as we've seen in the recent tournament. Sadly, we're also seeing an increase in reports at grassroots level, in particular youth level, and we're seeing that also what we're seeing in the women's game play out at the pro game. We're also seeing that play out in the youth game as well. Ableist reports are up as well. Online abuse continues to rise as well. Look, I think the way that we're seeing the rise in the reports is from a positive lens, which is that people are becoming more aware of the discrimination that exists within the wider society, and people are feeling and having more confidence to report the discrimination that they're seeing. So actually, having year-on-year increase in reports tells us that people are becoming less tolerant around the discrimination that they're seeing within stadiums, online, and in grassroots games, and having the confidence to report as well.
If we're measuring it as an increase, Sam, are we taking two things into consideration? One, that people have a greater propensity to report it than they might have done in the past because they're aware of the opportunity to report it than they previously were, so that we might not actually be seeing an increase. Just the measurement in the past wasn't as perhaps precise as it can be now because people are more aware of it. And are there any term changes in terms of reference? Because I saw one of the categories was transphobia. And it's about the categorization. If somebody is critical about gender identification and the fact that biological males, in my view, can't play in biological female sport, that could be categorized as transphobia by certain classifications, can't it?
So I think the point you raise around reported, people are becoming more confident to report. So I think you can't draw a correlation, Simon, to say things are getting worse. But actually, what you can draw a correlation is that people are having the confidence to report it, and I think that's really important that we continue to drive the confidence to report it. That where you see it, where you hear it, that you actually continue to report it. I think that's the first point. To your second point, I think it's important to note that whatever your views are, in terms of the trans community, there is no space for discrimination, and that's really important. And our reports capture discrimination towards that community, and we are very clear that whatever your views are, there is no space for discrimination, and we continue to stand by that as an organisation.
Okay, so people are having more confidence to report these incidents. What's happening with the reports? So what is the outcome? Are we speaking to social media channels? And that's where 90% of this is happening, right? Broadcasters. What's the likely outcome of these increased reports? Like if people are wanting to report, are they thinking, okay, something's going to happen?
So when we receive reports that come in from the pro game, we'll work with the officials, with the governing bodies to ensure that each report that comes to kick it out is actioned and appropriate action is taken, whether that means education, whether that means banning individuals and taking away their season tickets, the appropriate action is taken. From online spaces, is the more complex one. And
complex or impossible, Sam? It almost seems to me, when it's a faceless account, I mean, let's look. I mean, we've seen recently, right? I mean, pornography, you have to sort of put your passport and all the sort of details now, and it's almost been completely eradicated and erased from social media just by doing that, right? You have to sign up, and all of a sudden, no one wants to do it anymore. Why can't social media do that? Why can't social media simply have the same thing where in order to set up an account, you have to put in your passport, your driver's license, and thus you're not faceless? And if you're not faceless, most times you're not going to be doing things online such as homophobia and misogyny and racism. It's just not going to happen, is it?
You're absolutely spot on, and that's where we're calling for the platforms to do more, because they have the power to do that, to be able to create a platform that enables users to be able to use their platforms in a way that's safe and free from discrimination. That's why we're calling on the regulators to use the powers that they have to take action against the platforms. And it feels like the flow that we're certainly seeing is that these platforms won't take action until they face financial penalties. It feels like that's coming into place as well. So I think there's a place for the platforms to do something now, even though the act's in place. It won't be fully in place until 2027, but they can do something now. They don't have to wait for it to be fully in place. And then the second part is the regulators holding them to account and ensuring that they're using their tech to be able to make it a safe place for people to access social media in a way that's safe and free from discrimination.
Oh, that you mean Ofcom, yes?
Correct.
Yeah, and now that they've got governance over places like YouTube, they'll have more reach, won't they?
Correct.
How easy is it to report an incident online? So something comes through to my YouTube page or whatever, or my Twitter page, X as it's called now. How easy is it to report this?
It's easy to report it, but it's then what the tech firms then actually do with that. I think that's the key thing is the action that happens off the back of the reporting, what the tech firms actually do. They've got the powers, and tech firms have got the capability to take down things that they see on their platforms, and they simply don't do that. They need to be held to account. The regulator, as in Ofcom, needs to do more using their powers to hold those tech firms to account. And it feels very clearly that they won't take action until they start to face financial penalties.
Sam, I think you do a good job, but do you almost feel like your hands are tied behind your back sometimes when working with these sort of tech companies, with social media platforms, with broadcasters?
I don't think we've got our hands tied behind our back. I think it's about, if you want to drive real change, it's about the persistence, the courage to continue to go, working with the various bodies to ensure that you see change happens. We know change doesn't happen overnight. So I think it's about actually how much pressure we and others continue to play, including the government, the players, as we've seen, to be able to drive real change. So we've all got a role to play. Certainly don't feel we've got our hands tied behind our back. We know there are challenges. We know it's complex, but it's about actually the role that we all play to drive real change. And I believe we will do. We'll see that.
Sometimes, Simon, I'd like to think, and this could be just me almost wishing, but I'd like to think that it's not got as bad, but more people are reporting. I think you mentioned something similar at the top.
That's my point. That was my point. And of course, nobody in any shape or form condones discrimination. My point about terms of reference was, if you have a critically evaluative perspective and people don't like it, people can often categorise that as abuse. Me suggesting that a biological male can't play in a biological female sport is not discrimination. It's a simple biological fact, but some people can categorize it in that particular fashion. I worry sometimes about pressure groups that if they don't find challenges, they don't exist. And we live in an imperfect world, and ultimately holding a microscope up to every aspect of imperfect societies achieves very little. But that also the flip side of that is if you don't do those sort of things, then there's no consequence to it. Of course, in social media terms, everybody knows of half a brain. With a few exceptions, there's very little reason for anonymity on social media.
Yeah.
Anonymity is the enemy of a reasonable society because it enables people to say the most awful things and get away with it. And there is reasons for anonymity. There are reasons why people have anonymity, legitimate reasons with groups that need to have anonymity, whether they're a whistleblower or they're a protected environment. But people that have anonymity so they can be abusive is not something that the social media companies should want to have. The Online Harms Bill, the Online Safety Act, has some teeth now and will have more teeth. But we live in a world where it's imperfect, and we have to get the balance right between creating a study which shows that people can report more offences or more discrimination, and saying that it's on the move, it's going upwards, when really what we might be seeing is a greater awareness of people being prepared to report it. So it doesn't mean it's on the move up. It means that people are actually being prepared to report it more, which means more actions can be taken against it.
Indeed. Sam Okafor, thank you very much. Kick It Out CEO. All right, you're listening to Oladipo and Jordan on talkSPORT with Selco Builders Warehouse. It's where the trade go. Up next, we're going to be looking ahead to the Community Shield this weekend. Remember, it's Crystal Palace against Liverpool. It's taking place at Wembley, but will it always be there? Could it be going stateside? Good morning, Ade Oladipo, Simon Jordan. I told you the other day when we spoke about Andy Goldstein that he wouldn't win Iraq in his quest to somehow win the Florida Pool Championship. He won one. He won one rack against the Pearl Strickland, lost the game 9-1. But Andy is back later on today for his second game. If you fancy seeing him fail again, because he will, just head over to talkSPORT YouTube channel from 4 o'clock, or you can tune in to the Drive Show for updates. But good luck to him on a more serious note. He's fulfilling a dream, and I would love to be doing what he's doing. Yeah, we are willing you one.
Success for you.
With our fingers crossed as well for you. All right, big game this Sunday. Liverpool take on Crystal Palace in the Community Shield. I'm going to get Simon's thoughts on whether it is a big game, because if it is, maybe we should put more stock into it, or it might vanish over to the States. Let's hear from Adam Wharton, who I think has been absolutely fantastic for Crystal Palace. This is what he had to say when he spoke about the campaign this season and the game.
My season last year was a bit stop-start with injury, so for Palace, you know, I want to stay as fit as possible, play as many games as I can. Yeah, just try and help the team as much as possible, and to, you know, do even better than we did last year. I think every player that's English in the Premier League wants to, you know, be picked to go to America come the end of their season. So yeah, I don't really set too many goals personally. I just take it game by game, feel within myself if I'm doing well or I can be doing better. When the time comes, then yeah, obviously you're hopeful that your name will be picked and you're on the plane.
I like him a lot. Adam Wharton, you can hear that interview in its full. He's speaking to Gabby Egbonho. You can hear it on Drive this afternoon from 4 o'clock. Very level-headed as well. Very, very good player. How far away from sort of being a fixture, permanent fixture in Thomas Tuchel's squad do you think he is? Hard, isn't it, that midfield area?
I think he's a very good player. I think he knows his role. Souness used to talk to me about people knowing their roles, and he was always quite critical of Kobe Mano not knowing his job. Good player, but doesn't know his job. And whereas he thought that Adam Wharton in that role was natural and did that job and did it naturally. It's like footballers know where their best position is, don't they? And they know what to do in that space. I think he's a very good player. And I think that Palace will do well to keep him in the future, because he'll be one of those rarities like Claude Makelele and N'Golo Kante that fill that role. Right? Yeah. And they're quite rare, like centre forwards seem to be. So I think he's a key component part of Palace solidity and opportunity. Going on to the game on Sunday, I think it's a great game for Palace to be part of. The Charity Shield is a exhibition match to some extent. And
why do we say that and no one else on the continent does? They take it as a proper trophy.
Yeah, I mean the managers do when they want to tell you how many trophies
Arteta's done that.
Yeah, I don't really take that seriously, and I don't think most people really think that winning the Charity Shields is a legitimate trophy. It's the byproduct of a successful previous season, and you're now into a new season.
Is the Super Cup a trophy? Just to play devil's advocate, then the winners of the Europa League and the Champions League, and then is that a trophy? Then the Super Cup?
Yeah, I make the argument that I think it's not a meaningful trophy. And then you go back to 1974 and you see Billy Bremner fighting on the field, right? And that might be about something else. I think for me, I don't tend to watch the Charity Shield. I don't think it's a particularly interesting game. This time round, because my side are in it, I might be more invested because it's something that's as rare as Rocking Horse. Palace don't play in Charity Shields, so they're going on a world stage. It's a curtain raiser for the opening introduction of the biggest league in world football. So it has its real marketing merits.
If it's not a meaningful trophy, would we be upset if this were the game that went abroad? We've spoken about this quite a lot, the influence of American owners in the Premier League wanting a game in America. Would we be okay with this one going over to America?
Well, there's a lot of assumptions there that they actually do. Because the one thing when I was in America, asking the MLS about their idea of because the FIFA regulation has been overturned. It was overturned by Relevant Sports that the overseas matches could be played in America, because it was originally going to be a game between Barcelona and Gijón, which was cancelled because there was certain restrictions put in place by FIFA's governance. That was challenged through the courts. It's been removed. The domestic fixtures can be played in America now. I don't think the MLS wants it, because why do they want to have a light shone on how crap they are in comparison with the actual leagues that are really putting out the best performances? They don't. And I don't think US soccer wants it either. The idea that the US owners want it, I don't know if they do or they don't. Certainly the Spanish leagues want it, because they're trying to create an opportunity to catch up with the revenue that the Premier League's bringing. I don't think we'll see...
They're shopping around.
I'm not averse to playing a meaningful game in America. I'm averse to playing a meaningful domestic game that is already seeded in the intellectual capital that English football has been built upon. There's only so many things you can strip back.
What would be a meaningful game then? Because no FA Cup, basically, no league
competition of some shape or
a League Cup game.
Something, no, not a League Cup game. Something that has some degree of jeopardy involved in it, so it's a meaningful fixture. But something that doesn't compromise the basic principles that have been so successful in creating what we've got. We've got to stop navel gazing about what's happening inside our game, because we have got something that's really worked very well. That's why the PSR crap and all this sort of stuff, an independent regulator, trouble me, because we're fixing things that, whilst there were some real live issues and there's some real world issues in the Readings and the Sheffield Wednesdays of the world, it'd be interesting to see when it really comes on top how much the regulator is going to be able to stop some of these things. And we're governing a game in a certain way. When we go open it for business, it's a global success. Everyone around the world admires our league. I tell you what we'll do, we'll start to regulate it, over-govern it, put PSR involved, stop investment, and turn it into a selling league that's just the same as the Bundesliga and Serie A and Liga, because it can't compete anymore the way it wants to.
We've got to be careful we don't eat ourselves.
Very true. The argument was made about eating ourselves through the over-broadcasting of sport. And I don't think that's the case. I think we saw during COVID, maybe because there wasn't a lot else to watch, but there was a real demand to watch football because it was all that people could watch. It was the only live event and real thing that was being produced at the time. And we saw the televisuality of it go through the gears. It'd be interesting to see what happens with the broadcasting rights, because I don't think Sky can afford it in 3 years' time, because I think their subscriber numbers are tanking because their price implications are so high, and the piracy market is so prevalent now because the price implications are so high. So we'll see what happens there, which is why I've always advocated for the Premier League to run its own game, have the Netflix of football, and build its own product and take 15, 20 billion a year rather than 4. And I think they will eventually, and they're doing that by taking back IMG's overseas broadcasting and start to do it in-house. Going to the perception of what happens there will be a competitive game. I just don't want it to be a Premier League game. I don't think we need to be the Harlem Globetrotters. I don't think we can be casual about what the other guys are doing. You know, Javier Tebas in a Liga that constantly apes English football whilst trying to pour scorn upon it, has the audacity to say, look at the transfer market broken by the English, when it's his league that have had the biggest transfer fees and some of the decadence that they've had on transfer fees. But I do think that the Charity Shield, now that my team are in it, is a far more meaningful game.
Yeah. On your team, only £3 million spent so far. Yeah. Obviously, they're trying to get Evan Gesson in. It's like he's going to Aston Villa. A left-back has come in. We've spoken about Oliver Glasner so much on this show, and rightly so, because he's one of the best managers in the league. You need to spend a bit more than $3 million to keep Oliver Glasner interested.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You mustn't lose your mind over what transfer fees you pay for things, because Palace bought a player last year that I understand that they needed a lot of convincing to buy, whether it was Textor or Parish needed to be possibly really convinced about this player, and that was a player called Muniz that they paid £7 million quid for. Yeah, I think he's a good player, don't you? So whilst we all like to see the headline numbers that a £40 million striker's been bought, when they bought a £40 million striker in Christian Benteke, he sucked. Right, he might have become a cult hero, but not for the best reasons. Yeah. And so, yes, of course they need to support him. Of course, in order to keep him, because I would suspect, and reasonably informed to suspect that this is right, that he will want to be backed. He may believe that he wasn't backed last year, and he took that one. And I think that they won't have the same. Of course, not being backed at the same time as retaining players, because being backed is also retaining players that other people think they can have.
Good shout.
Eberechi Eze is going to be a sought-after commodity.
That's almost like a signing, isn't it?
Yeah, to some extent. Yeah. I mean, people won't see it that way because we live in the world of show business and the Disneyfication of sport, and you do need to supplement the playing squad. You do need to kick on. And when John Textor was in here talking about the ambitions of Crystal Palace, he wanted to build a side, and whatever they think of Textor, his attitude was, I want to kick on so Crystal Palace is in Europe every year, not once every 120 years.
CAS hearings on Friday. Outcome, we think, will be on Monday. Yeah. Will there be a Conference League team or Europa League team?
I can't listen. The machinations of the case that they're putting forward. Stefan was debating it yesterday. I think we're in the same space about seeing a difficulty in the arguments that they're trying to advance. But you can never rule anything out. Most people would have felt there was a distinct possibility the Court of Arbitration of Sport might have held up UEFA's findings on Man City.
Yeah, true.
But they didn't.
True.
And so the framework of reference is different. I think they will be a European Conference League side, but whatever I say, normally the polar opposite happens. Yeah. Whoever I bet
Palace fans will be hoping.
Yeah, whoever I bet on the other one.
Yeah, indeed.
So the more I back David Benavides, the happier Anthony Yard should be.
Indeed. And by the way, I do think if they are in the Conference League, they'll win the whole thing as well. That's the benefit of being in that.
Economically, the argument can be made.
Not much difference.
Well, economically, if Palace get to, say, the final of the European Conference League, which is not beyond the wit of man, given the English teams that have been there, the same revenues would be attached to it as getting knocked out in the 16s of the Europa League, which is the likely outcome.
There you go. I remember Liverpool versus Crystal Palace this Sunday live on talkSPORT gets underway at 3 o'clock. All right, up next, we're going to be looking at a player care in football. We're going to be joined by the Player Care Group founder, Hugo Schechter, in studio.
When Sir Jim Ratcliffe took control of footballing operations at United, the Manchester-born billionaire was somewhat welcomed in as a homegrown hero, ready to save the club from the dark days of the Glazers. But in just 12 months, he became a punchbag for many fans. So what happened? Well, let's take a look and you can decide for yourself. Over the last 3 years, the club lost 300 million quid, and Ratcliffe rightfully committed to sorting that. But what seemed to get fans' backs up is the way he went about it. For example, talkSPORT understands staff lunch options at the Carrington canteen have been reduced to just soup and sandwiches, which the higher-ups at the club say will save them 1 million quid a year. Now, that might make sense for many who don't get free meals at work themselves, but it does get a little bit more picky than that. It was reported that after staff brought some stationery, they were ordered to send sellotape back because it wasn't considered to be essential. And the reward for being Steward of the Week used to be 50 quid, but that was scrapped and replaced by a paper certificate. But it's not just seemingly stingy decisions. In 2024 alone, Ratcliffe oversaw 250 redundancies, and more were announced at the beginning of 2025. Now, while there are people who acknowledge United staff numbers are overinflated, it's the optics which aren't great. Add to the mix the introduction of a flat ticket price of 66 quid for every fan, even children, while Casemiro's on 350 grand a week, and the frustration of fans reached fever pitch. Time will tell whether Ratcliffe's cost-cutting measures will improve outcomes at the club, but one thing's for sure, there's a long way to go for United to be back where many say they belong.
Good morning, you're listening to Ade Oladipo and Simon Jordan. We are going to talk player care in football. Hugh Schechter from the Player Care Group is with us in the studio. Before that, though, let's catch up on the latest odds with BetMGM.
It's showtime on talkSPORT with BetMGM. Get ready for the golden era of sports betting. Visit betmgm.co.uk or download the app. 18+gambleaware.org.
I'm delighted to say that we are joined by the very own Lord Charlie Robertson from BetMGM to look at today's top sporting stories and focus on the odds as well. Charlie, we've just been discussing it. It's coming up on Sunday, the Community Shield. Liverpool take on Crystal Palace. I know you're a Liverpool fan, just like myself. Surely we're going to win this one. Surely we're favourites.
Yeah, we very much are, Adi. I think it's a 17th Community Shield we're going for. We're odds. Liverpool are odds on at 3-5. Crystal Palace 22-5, and the draw is 100-30. Yeah, as mentioned, Liverpool obviously firm favourites given where they finished last season, but I think it's that sort of time of the season, is it, when you could definitely give Palace a chance. Simon and Adi, I know you've obviously got allegiances to both sides. How important do you think this is for each team in the context of the rest of the season, or do you think it's one of those games you sort of just take as a one-off?
No, it's massive. It's massive. It's massive. We've got to win. All the money we've spent in the window, Wirtz has got to step up. Ekitike has got to do some damage as well. But honestly, on a more serious note, I am concerned with our centre-back pairing. Is Konate going to be fit? Van Dijk, is he going to be rested? Is he going to be fit? So I think pressure starts now. Let's ramp up the pressure. Liverpool are expected to do big things this season. But this Crystal Palace...
Is Van Dijk going to be rested?
No, they could. I think he's got a knock.
Right.
So I think he's got a knock.
Okay.
I think he's going to play. I
think he's going to play, yeah.
Cautionary, yeah.
And Crystal Palace are a dangerous side. I mean, these games against Palace are never easy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm debating.
Quietly confident.
Debating with Liverpool fan TV here. I think if Liverpool were to lose this game, they wouldn't go on to win the Premier League next year. No, I don't.
Yeah.
Do I think if Palace don't win this game, they're going to get relegated this year? No, I don't. So I think it's a great spectacle. It's a great curtain raiser. It creates a load of headlines. I don't think it's particularly meaningful.
It is meaningful.
No, it's not.
It's a trophy.
It'll be meaningful if Crystal Palace win on Monday.
Yeah. And it'll be meaningful if Liverpool lose on Monday.
Yeah, to some extent. But when you get into the real business of it, I mean, how many times has the winner or loser of the Charity Shield had an outcome as a result of it that's been different?
That'd be good to know. If our producers can get that for us, that'd be fantastic to know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
do some work out there.
Do some work, yeah, Ollie, and the rest of the team. All right, let's talk transfers. Benjamin Sesko looks like he's on his way to Manchester United. Looks like he's decided Newcastle United isn't his favourable destination. Loads going on in the transfer window, though, apart from that.
Yeah, we've actually suspended betting on Sesko, Adi, which probably is a sign of where he's probably going to end up at United. And on the back of that, there's been a load of changes. Alexander Isak's actually now gone back to favourite to stay at Newcastle. He's 4-5 to stay there and 9-10, but drifting to go to Liverpool. So it does feel like it's all a bit linked, doesn't it? Whoever sort of the dominoes fall in which way will determine where Sesko goes.
Why are you smiling for?
And Crookie mentioned Nicholas Jackson earlier, and he's actually odds on now to join Newcastle. So perhaps he's the one that Newcastle could turn to. I spoke to a couple of Newcastle fans in the office, and they weren't keen on him, but I actually mentioned Darwin Núñez, Adi, who I thought could be quite a good fit for Newcastle. So, yeah, guys, just interested to see who you think Newcastle should sign up top. Would Núñez
How does that work then? How's Darwin Núñez a good fit for Newcastle and he's not good enough for your lot?
I think Simon, he would be under less pressure at Newcastle to perform, I think, and also I think he just would do a good job there. I think there's definitely a player in there that perhaps hasn't shown enough at Liverpool, but I think could potentially flourish at Newcastle.
Yeah, I think there's a sense from most people in the Premier League that there is a good player there. That as soon as he goes somewhere else, it's going to go bang. So Liverpool have to have some sort of buyback clause, actually, because I still think there's a talent. And I know he wants to stay in the Premier League to make sure he gets into that Uruguay squad for the World Cup as well, as opposed to go into Saudi. Let's talk boxing. The rematch has been done. We know the date now in November. Chris Eubank Jr. versus Conor Benn, November 15th. You must be excited about this one.
Yeah, it should be a great fight. I know Simon and plenty have different opinions on it, but it's a great spectacle, isn't it? Eubank Jr. 13-25 to beat Conor Benn, who is 8-5. Eubank Jr. is actually a shorter price this time, guys. Do you think that's fair, or do you give Conor Benn much of a chance? He obviously put up a pretty good performance last time, but obviously didn't quite have enough. Do you think, can you see him giving Eubank a go, or do you think Eubank might just have a bit too much again?
I think you'd make Eubank favourite, but I think it's closing the gap. I mean, as Chris gets older, making £160, and it's going to be £160 as well, all the same stipulations as last time round. That can only favour Conor. Not saying Conor's favourite, but it can only favour Conor.
What Johnny Nelson was saying, and I don't know whether he was saying it just to be a contrarian, was that he felt that Chris Eubank Jr. wasn't going to get any better, and he wasn't on solid legs as a result of the things that we talked about, which is the weight cut and so on and so forth, whereas there was much room for Conor Benn to improve. So the improvement was going to be in Conor Benn, and was that improvement going to be sufficient to close the gap between Chris Eubank Jr.? Johnny felt that it was. Yeah. I always felt Conor Benn was going to put a showing up. I don't know why people thought he wasn't going to put a showing up, because he is game. Whatever we think about Conor, and whatever we think about some of the controversies that are raised around him, he's game. Yeah. So he was always going to go out on his shield, whichever way he went out. And I think it will be the same. I think it will be rinse and repeat, but it might be closer.
Should be closer. Charlie, as always, my man, appreciate you coming on. Thank you very much. That was a look at the latest odds, all thanks to BetMGM. Remember, visit betmgm.co.uk or download the app 18+, begambleaware.org.
It's showtime on talkSPORT with BetMGM. Keep things golden with responsible play at betmgm.co.uk. 18+, gambleaware.org.
All right, we now are going to turn our attention to player care. I mentioned him just before we spoke to BetMGM. Hugo Schechter's in studio with us, founder of the player care group. What is it? Kind of outline to us the importance of it and what it is.
So player care is the way that clubs and organisations across the world look after their athletes off the pitch, and that can be logistical support, so moving them into the area, helping their families settle better in. It can be giving them the life skills to improve themselves as people, and it can be signposting to the appropriate mental health support, both in the first teams and the academy in football across the world.
Who normally does take care of that? So moving your company from it, if sort of a big club sign a big player X for 150 million. Who takes care of those things? Is it the player and his agent? Is it the club? Who normally does this role?
It depends on the size of club. So a big club will have player care department, and that's what we help clubs do. We help them build that structure internally. We don't work with players ourselves to input to look after the players. Smaller clubs, it will be a mix of agents or someone in the club, but a lot of times the players are sort of left to their own devices, especially at smaller clubs. So we're trying to help clubs create that structure internally to basically remove the chance of players failing off the pitch, which they're spending a lot of money on.
You know, one thing I always hear with sort of big signings, if unsettled, family's unsettled, you know, wife doesn't enjoy it there, kids are... That is important. Why spend billions on these players and not focus... I mean, obviously, look, focus on what's going on the pitch, the most important thing, but not focus on what's going on outside and off the pitch. Doesn't seem to be a thing, does it? Because you hear it so much, unsettled.
Yeah, but that tends to go in when a player's not playing very well. I mean, people can be unsettled and unfamiliar with their surroundings, irrespective of how well they're playing at the time. A suite of activities, from player liaison, from club secretaries being involved. Of course, if a player's coming to a new club, there needs to be some degree of support structure, whether it's a younger player getting bank accounts open because they've come from an overseas country, whether it's the geographical situation of where they need to live in relation to the training ground, whether it's a suite of activities, because agents will get involved often because they feel there's an opportunity for them to make some money out of the next car that the player gets or the next commercial opportunity that he gets. Of course there should be a balance. Of course the club, if you're going to go spend 20, 30, 40, 50 million pounds on a footballer, you want to give them every opportunity to have no reason to be safe on the ground that you want them to play on, in terms of they know what they're doing, because these are, you know, a lot of them are young boys. You know, they don't know the way around the world. They're institutionalised. They've come out of academies. All they know is how wonderful they are because everyone's spent all the time telling them that, and they've got to prepare for a different sort of eventuality. So there's nothing wrong with it, and absolutely that's how it should be. And he's right. I mean, if you go down the pyramid, if you're at Accrington Stanley, you're not going to have a player liaison department because you haven't got the money for it, and you're not spending the money on it.
Yeah. Have you seen the rise in sort of clubs wanting player care groups, especially when you see a lot of young players, foreign players come over? So it's not just a case of foreign players come over that are men.
Yeah, I mean, look,
young ones come over as well now.
When I joined Southampton in 2014, I think we were the 13th club to have one person, and now pretty much every club in the Premier League has a team of people doing different things. So it's absolutely grown. And
how big's the team?
So, well, some clubs it's like 7 or 8 people. For me, it's too many. I think really 2 or 3 is the sort of sweet spot. But we're seeing championship clubs getting it. We're seeing American clubs getting it, clubs across Europe as well. Because what we're trying to do is do proactive player care, not only actually for when they sign, but actually try and help them convince them to sign for the club. Because a lot of times a player won't really know anything about a smaller club in the Premier League, and so we're trying to sell not only to them but their family, maybe their parents or the partner as well, to say this is the life that you'll have in this club. It could actually be, depending on the player, a real change, between 2 similar clubs.
Is there a part of your gig cultural activation so that people coming into this country, so you don't see situations like Edison Cavani where he comes in, uses language that is fine in his country but isn't fine in this country? Is that part of the gig as well?
Absolutely. I think it depends. We sit down with the player and see, what you've got to do for a 19-year-old is very different to what you'll do for a 35-year-old, but it's about trying to assess that. It's going to be English lessons, it's going to be cultural assimilation, it's going to be driving lessons. Even if they've got a legal right to drive in this country, they're often driving on the other side of the road. So let's do a couple of lessons with them, because how many times do we see news stories of players having car incidents? Well, it's because they haven't been trained or pushed by the club to train in this, because there's too much on the line now with the assets these players are to just go, we'll figure it out. There are such marginal gains looked at the 3 hours they're at the training ground, and the other 21 hours a day, it's kind of like, well, figure it out. For me, that's old-fashioned. The forward-thinking clubs are really looking at off the field and the away from the club as much as they are on the field.
You mentioned you came in at Southampton 2014, so you're talking 11 years ago.
Yeah.
How much has changed since then, and what's been the biggest change when you started this player care group company to now?
Yeah, so I mean, when I was at Southampton, I was a full-time member of staff, and same at West Ham. I was, at that time, very reactive. So a player would come to me with a problem and we would fix it. But over the time now...
Such as what?
So it could be like, oh, I've got a leak in my flat. Okay, we'll get it fixed. Or, oh, my tyre's flat. We'll get it fixed. It was very much operational, like low-level stuff. But now what we're trying to do is build a whole proactive program into clubs. So it will be, proactively helping them plan for retirement. It will be, we know that the partner's often quite isolated on away games, and there were security incidents across the country. Specifically, what can the club do to mitigate that risk of either players' partners being disillusioned or safety concerns? So it's gone from being very reactive to proactive, and I think that's where the clubs that do this the best are really putting things in place before they happen, rather than reacting when they do happen.
When I hear this, and forgive me if I'm wrong, it sounds like a player liaison.
Yeah,
what's the difference between player liaison? Okay, so it's just a name change as opposed to you do something completely different from them. Yeah,
so player liaison was kind of the old-fashioned. It tends to be someone who'd been at the club 30, 40 years. Now player care is an industry that's growing massively. We've been training people. We've got courses. We've trained 150 people who now work in clubs around the world. It's more of a career. You're seeing people move from club to club, and you're seeing a much more proactive role. So player liaison is just an old-fashioned term. It's not really used as much anymore. Player care or player support is a sort of more modern term, I guess.
I'm fascinated by this. So I've got so many questions in my head coming up. How important then is the player's partner in this?
Yeah.
Because again, this seems to dictate moves or whether a player will stay at a club. Honestly, you hear it all the time with players' partners unsettled and wants to go back to whether it be South America or Spain. How important is it that you sort of find a common agreement or a common stance with the player's wife or partner?
Yeah, well, sometimes the player is just the decision maker and the partner follows, but often, have players where that partner is a key decision maker, if not the key decision maker. One of the clubs we were working at, the partner came to visit the area, didn't like it, and so we were asked to try and rescue that. So we took her into a school where we knew the kids would have places. She spent half a day with the teachers. We took her around houses. We took her to the West End even for a theatre, and we engaged with we brought Elsa out for the kids because we knew that they were Disney fans. And from that partner going, I'm not sure this is the right club for me, within 3 days they'd gone, yeah, we're signing for the club, and they did. So I think for me it's these little moments where sometimes the on the pitch offering is fantastic and the finances offering is fantastic, but it's these little off the field things where clubs can just be a little bit proactive, a little bit thoughtful, and be a bit warmer to the partner especially, can make a big difference getting that player to choose one club over the other club.
I'm not a player, but I might need you to speak to my missus about things as well. Hugo's going to stay with us. More from Hugo when we come back. Good morning, just coming up to 12 o'clock. Ade Oladipo, Simon Jordan and Hugo Schechter here from the Player Care Group. A text has come in, and look, I think it's quite blunt, maybe quite brutal, but I'm going to ask you. Sure. Fully grown men being spoon-fed, ridiculous, Gaz?
Yeah, I mean, look, you've got players coming...
Is that from you, Simon? Have you sent that? Yeah. That seems like something you would say, actually.
Look, it can be ridiculous, but also I think we got players coming from across the world. If I moved to Senegal age 19, I wouldn't know how the bins worked. I wouldn't know how to find a house. I wouldn't know how to find a car. And I'm also not playing professional football. So I think there's so much pressure from the clubs. They are paying a lot of money for these players. They are assets. To allow them to fail because of something off the pitch, because it's not seen as right, I disagree. I think that's, you can have that approach, but I think you end up having players fail, and then you go, well, you're paying all this money. Why is he not doing that? Well, because he's driven on the wrong side of the road for 2 hours and hit 3 people. So I think it's really important that we, there are people who can do their own thing, but actually these are assets as well as people, and we need to make sure we're taking care of it.
When I heard you were coming in, my first thought was, okay, the one thing that I completely agree with, and something that I think needs to be pushed, is the care of younger players. Yeah. So that age from, I don't know, it could be any age, but let's say 14, when you are at pro clubs and everyone thinks you're going to make it, and you're that close to making it, and you maybe fall on the wayside, or even if you do make it, and the pressure of going from being on, when I was young, YTS money, to being on thousands and thousands of pounds a week and not having the right people around you, that's surely where you make your money as a Player Care Group founder.
Well, we don't make our money.
No, in terms of
fun to get it, but yes, so there's a whole profession which is academy player care, and it's a mandatory role through the Premier League at all Cat 1, 2, and 3 clubs. But it's only one person for 140 kids from 8 years old to up to under 23s. Some clubs are doing more of that, and that's great. But yeah, it's a very different way of doing player care. It's not so much we're doing things for them; it's teaching them to do it themselves. So the idea is they have 2 careers: one is football, one is something else. And at some point they'll pick what's best for them. But we want to make sure they're prepared for life and the outside.
They won't care about that though, will they? Like trying to tell a 15-year-old that you might not make it and that you might have to go into the job sector or go back to college or university. Or whatever. There's no way a 15-year-old's even going to have that in their mind, will they?
It's about relating it to football. So, if you are more charismatic, you're better at networking, you're better at engaging with people, that's going to be great whether you're a footballer or not a footballer. So the idea is not to say you won't be a footballer, got to prepare for the worst case. It's how do you make yourself better as a player? And a lot of that's development off the field that the academy player care staff are doing with the players off the field. But there's also that ability that when they are getting released, or when they get released, to make sure that they've got and they've some structures in place and some support afterwards as well.
How do you help these youngsters that have social media presence, and some of them have bigger social media presence than the clubs, which is crazy as a player here, that has a bigger YouTube following than some professional footballers? How do you deal with players like that who've almost become famous before becoming famous, if you like, for in the field?
It's really tough sometimes because you've got some people that certainly would go, he's not focused, he's not doing that. I think as a player care person, we always encourage players to have other interests outside of football, and so it's not an issue as long as it's professional and it's done in the right way and it's not becoming a distraction. I think the bigger issue for me in social media is how you're a child and you're on social media, you're given access to all these adults in the world, and if it was things that are happening in football, if they're happening in schools, they would clearly not be allowed, where you've got agents coming to, visit young players, you DMs on Instagram, you've got accounts highlighting young players. If that was done with other children, it wouldn't be allowed. So I think that's the more of the fear for me in terms of social media, is we're allowing anyone in the world to access these young people by sliding into their DMs, and I think it's a bigger concern for me.
Yeah, the young player I'm referring to is a guy called Lorenzo Greer, who's 16. He's been offered a 2-year scholarship. Hopefully it works out at Birmingham City. Has his channel that's got 1.7 million subscribers. Just for reference, Jude Bellingham's channel has 900,000.
Yeah.
How do you deal with a young player like that that's got that type of following and notoriety already? He's even made it as a footballer.
Well, I don't particularly like it. I mean, I think that the idea that academies, I see the representation of how youth football is portrayed through the media. I've seen the documentaries that they're described as sausage factories, a lot of old rubbish. They create great opportunities. Very few industries allow people to get that close to its actual opportunity, give you an opportunity to be successful. Scholastic investment that goes into ensure that kids aren't just churned out as footballers, and then if they don't make football, they've got no other, they can't speak, they can't string a sentence together. That's all nonsense. So I think there's already a lot of infrastructure, safeguarding, a lot of opportunity, a lot of academies and young players are, and the academies themselves are tasked and tasked to have scholastic aptitude and application and levels of attainment from the kids that are wanting to be professional footballers. Otherwise, they get challenged as a result of it. So to go to your question, it's a difficult one because of the age that we live in and the time that we live in. I would prefer a young footballer to be concentrating on being a young footballer than potentially being motivated by the distractions of being in a space. But I'm also not 157 years of age. I understand the world that we live in. So it's about trying to everything in life. Everything in life is about balance. And if you put the right investment and education structure into people, you get the best outcomes for them and for the business of itself.
Final one, Hugo. Thank you so much for coming in as well. What would you say is the hardest roadblock, if you like, for you in this player care group? Like, what's the most difficult thing you have to deal with?
I think we speak to a lot of clubs where they go, we've kind of got this already. And when you're actually pushing on it, it's very basic, it's very reactive. But obviously you've got players who go through horrific things in their lives. And that's really tough when you've got, deaths of relatives or things like that. And often they feel like they can't leave their club because there's important games or there's not a replacement easily available. And those are the really tough times as a human being. Yeah, but life.
On that, sorry, just because we have to break. So the situation at Liverpool, for example, Diogo Jota, would counselling be sort of offered up to every single player in that squad?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know the specifics there, but yes, I would imagine so. I mean, I've never dealt with anything as horrific as that, but when it's someone's personal relative or father or something like that, it's trying to work out with them and the club. What do they want? Because some players want to come back. They actually want that distraction of playing week in, week out. Other players want to go home and be with family. So that's a decision with the manager, the director of football and the player. But we would obviously do as much support as we can as well.
Hugo, appreciate you coming in. Thank you very much. Hugo Schechter there, the player care group founder. All right, you know what time it is now. Count to 12 o'clock. So that means Spencer Oliver is going to join us for the boxing hour. And we have Anthony Yard in studio as well.
Aguero, Solskjaer, Deeney, Watkins. Sure, you know all about those last-minute goals, but have you heard the one about the on-loan goalkeeper who saved his temporary employers from disappearing out the Football League and into almost certain financial oblivion? Back in 1999, Carlisle United, managed by Nigel Pearson, were fighting to stay in the Football League. Carlisle's finances were precarious with a capital P that season, leading to a scenario where, with 3 games to go, they had to ask the FA to sanction an emergency loan deal to bring in a goalkeeper. Swindon Town's Jimmy Glass arrived at the club. His efforts in his first 2 games earned the Cumbrians 2 draws. Those vital points meant that Carlisle went into their final game of the Division 3 season, now League 2, needing to beat mid-table Plymouth Argyle in front of their own fans and hope their relegation rival Scarborough didn't win against Peterborough at home. The game at the McCain Stadium finished 1-1, and with the same scoreline at Brunton Park deep into injury time, Scarborough's fans invaded the pitch en masse, believing their Football League status was secure, convinced they'd done enough to stay up. However, there'd be one more plot twist. Carlisle won a corner in the dying seconds, and up came Jimmy Glass. In one of those you couldn't make it up moments, Glass scored from a rebounded header and was promptly swamped by teammates and thousands of fans who quite simply couldn't believe what they'd just witnessed. As for Jimmy Glass, he became an overnight celebrity, but he never played for Carlisle again, and his playing career never really kicked on after that defining moment. He took on various jobs outside of football before finding his way back into the sport as player liaison officer at Eddie Howe's Bournemouth, and most recently the general manager at non-league Wimborne. Not the fairy tale ending to one of the most Hollywood moments in football, but the name Jimmy Glass will live on forever as the scorer of that goal, arguably the most important in any club's history.
By the way, this is the boxing hour. Can we just pan to Anthony Ade again? Look at that. We have the same drink. Not an advertisement for the drink, but it shows how healthy I am at the moment. Coconut water.
Yeah.
Coconut water.
There's no sponsorship going on there.
There could be a little bit. Might be a little bit. This is the boxing hour. Ade Oladipo, Simon Jordan, joined in the studio by the Omen, Spencer Oliver.
How are you, my friend?
And world title challenger, November 22nd, the big man, Anthony Ade. You are looking quite swole as well, Anthony.
I'm swole, man.
Looking quite swole.
Shoulders.
What a collection. what a collection this is. Loads to run through in this next hour. I want to get immediate thoughts from everyone around the table about Conor Benn versus Chris Eubank Jr. 2 announced, or should I say Chris Eubank versus Conor Benn. He'll probably message me. November 15th, a week before your fight, November 15th. November, all of a sudden, looking busy. What do you make of it, Spence?
From a selfish point of view, I want to see it again because the first one was an absolute barnstormer. But do you get the same again? Look, sometimes we have had that. We had it in trilogies with like Eric Morales and Barrera. We saw that the styles just gelled so well. I think with what's on the line with these two, you know, the family feud that goes back so long and the egos that are involved and the will to win, I think we get it again. I think it's going to be a great fight. I think it favours Conor more going into this second fight than it does Chris Eubank because of the stipulations that have been put in place. So that are all pretty much the same. I think it's quite widely known that Chris Eubank Jr. does struggle to make 160, so it's how he makes that. The rehydration clause is still in place, etc., etc. So, look, it's an interesting fight. The first one was a close fight. I thought Eubank deserved to win that one, but it could be closer, this one.
You fought on that card, the first one.
Yeah.
Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, packed. Absolutely packed. Are you surprised they're doing it again, or did it just make sense because if it makes money, it makes sense, right? And the first one made quite a lot of money.
That's it. I don't think it... For me, it's like they've done it. They gave us such a good fight. I literally had my fight because it was a fight just before. I had my fight. I still had my shorts on. I had to do the drug test, so I told them to come with me. I wanted to watch the fight. So we was there ringside. I enjoyed it a lot. I just feel like they gave us what we wanted, even with the weight difference or whatever. Me personally, they both left the ring. As I said, I wanted a good fight. They both left happy. Well, not both happy, but they both left healthy. More money in their pocket.
Move on.
Let it go, move on. But, again, I'm not mad at them that they're doing it again.
That's the argument, though, isn't it, Simon? Chris should go maybe to 168 if he wants to continue boxing. If you're Conor, you look at the 147 division right now. It's not hot.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a chance to win a world title at 147 if you're Conor.
It's a balance.
Shouldn't you be doing that?
I mean, ultimately, I said it earlier on, I like steak, not hamburger. But that's my view. That the money that they're going to get from this fight is significant. They're not going to get the same sort of money elsewhere. I think with due respect, prize fighting has its meaning. I think Chris fights for money. I don't think he fights for titles. And that's why I've always had an issue with him, and because we've heard lots of noise from Chris. And I like him. I think he's a superstar in the way that he conducts himself in the media. But we've always heard about Las Vegas mansions and his card scores and how he does this and how he does that. When it comes to fighting, and he wants to fight Triple G and he wants that, but never does. And I think there's something to be said. I mean, he's going to fight for world titles. I mean, he's going to get paid for fighting for a world title, but he's going to fight for a world title. So I'd rather watch Anthony Yard fight David Benavidez every day of the week and twice on Sunday than watch Conor Benn fight Chris Eubank because their fathers are great. Sorry, I know that might be mean-spirited and people can have their view on it, but...
You can't deny, though, that the first fight wasn't an absolute barnstormer, and stylistically, we will get that again.
Yeah, I mean, you got what you should get. If you're going to go and represent your fathers and trade off their names and you're going to sell it as something that people want to see, the least you can go and do is leave it all in there, right? Let's not be grateful for that. I know that when we get a stinker that we say, well, actually, we got a stinker, we should have got something better. But with all the noise, all the furore, we should have got what we got. But did we, as a fight, in terms of if you're looking at it as a spectacle, yes, it was a barn burner, Spence, and I agree with you, and you've got more knowledge, and he's got more knowledge than I'll ever know, right, because you've both done it. But as an impartial observer looking at it, I like people to be at the very top of their craft if they're getting rewarded the kind of rewards that these guys are getting. And I think we sell people things and we sell them pups. Yeah, okay, great barn burner, fantastic. I've seen it. I've watched it now. I don't need to watch it again.
So you won't watch it live?
I didn't watch it live last time, no.
You won't watch this one live?
I don't know, it depends what I'm doing.
From a business point of view, from Chris' side, though, you go, look, when you look at it and where he's sat in his career right now, and you're right in what you say, you know, is that does he go for that world title and follow that dream of becoming a world champion, or does he go in for the business side of things and get an astronomical amount of money in a fight against a guy that he well believes that he'll win again? And I'm not sure that world title opportunity has come forward quick enough for him, and that's why this fight's going on.
I probably agree in the principle of why wouldn't you take it if you're them? Because you're in the business now at a certain stage in your career. Conor is the one I'm more disappointed in because I think Conor's career is in a certain position. And I think he does. I know there was a lot of affection for him after the performance that he put in against Chris Eubank in the first fight, which I thought he would do anyway. Because the one thing Conor Benn is his game. But I also think there's a credibility. World title, I think he gets credibility. I think fighting Chris Eubank, he gets more notoriety, more recognisability, and a bigger bank balance. He can have all of that and win a world title.
Isn't Conor at the age, though, I guess a question to you as well, Anthony, where he can maybe have this and still fight for a world title after? Conor's not the same age as Chris Eubank Jr. He's several years younger.
Yeah, but again, the way I always see boxing, especially a sport like boxing, is, you know, one fight can change everything. That's not even me thinking negative. That's the reality of the sport. So, my personality has always been, you know, I want to win a world title.
I want to test yourself.
I want to test myself. I want to be the best version of myself. I want to be able to look in the mirror when I retire and say, yeah, I know that person. Like, really, look in my eyeball and say, I know who that person is. I'm not just a talker. I went through it. There's no regrets. I know what would happen if I went into that fight because I went into it.
You could do that if you retired tomorrow, though, with the fighters that you've boxed for world titles before. Going to box Kovalev back in Russia in 2019, who was a pound-for-pound star.
Yeah.
And then, you know, last time out as well against Beterbiev, who again was a pound-for-pound star. You could actually retire tomorrow and say, look, I got my world title opportunities and I went in there and gave it my best shot. So, you know, I think you fulfilled that side of it, haven't you?
Yeah, I have fulfilled that side in terms of courage, in terms of knowing who I am as a person. But I want to fulfill the dream, you know, the good side of it is winning the fight. That's just my personality and my character. And yeah, what a journey. So
It's crazy with you. I always think, like, and this isn't to discredit anyone that's won a world championship. I've not laced up the gloves professionally, so I wouldn't do that. But you've had the hardest task,
literally,
of trying to fight for a world title that it can be. I mean, Benavidez, Beterbiev, and Kovalev.
Yeah.
I mean, there are easier ways to win a world title. Sometimes you must almost be proud of yourself. The fact that, okay, I've had that. I'm facing these challenges, but also at the same time, surely there could have been an easier way, an easier route to a world title.
Yeah, definitely. But my only mentality is, now I need to win. I need to win the fight. I don't lie to myself. Yes, I can be proud. I'm different from a lot of other fighters. Not a lot of fighters, 18 fights in, one of the biggest prospects in the UK at the time, would have gone to Russia to fight someone like Kovalev. Same thing with Beterbiev. They would have said, nah. There's other routes, especially if you're talking about making money and things like that.
Do you regret any of those?
No.
You wouldn't have gone back and thought, nope, maybe take a couple more before Kovalev experience? No?
Absolutely
But
not.
you're all about opportunity, and that's what boxing presents to you. And it's like, whoever's in front of you, some people get lucky and they get a weak world champion, and that opportunity comes up, and then they can go on and, monetize it other ways. But you've taken that opportunity when you said, look, you could have shut the door on both of those fights if you really wanted to and gone for different avenues. But I love that, if the opportunity is presented to you as a prize fighter and you go, that's it, because I'm chasing my dream. That's what it's all about.
And look, this is what I'm going to tell you something about me, yeah? There's some people that say, it's like it's a common thing in boxing where they start saying he's fighting for money. He's taking a fight because of money. If I was a person that was in the sport just for money, I'm not saying I'm not in the sport for money, but if it was just for money, I would have taken step aside money against Kovalev, because they offered me the exact same amount to step aside so he could fight Canelo. I said no. I said, I've got my opportunity. I've worked my way to the number one spot. I want to fight Kovalev. I don't care where it is. So that shows my character. I'm always going to go for the biggest opportunity possible for me. And this is why I get upset when people start saying, why are you not fighting this person? Why are you not fighting that person? I'm saying, I've shown my character. I will fight anybody that makes sense. I will fight anybody who the public really want me to fight. Not naming no names. I will fight anybody who is in my weight division that's highly ranked. On paper, better than me. Because I'm a realist. Benavidez, Kovalev, Beterbiev, on paper, they should wipe the floor with me. But again, I've gone in there each time and shown a better account of myself, and this time will be even better. And enough to win.
That's what we want to see, don't we? That's what we want to see. Want to hear. Finally, just and putting to bed, we'll talk about it so much more in the lead up to it. Conor versus Chris. Wembley was an option. Are you surprised they've not gone Wembley, actually? I mean, Tottenham, 60,000, Wembley, nearly 95. They could have sold out Wembley.
Do you know what, though? I think the atmosphere in Tottenham, the way that the stadium is built, mate, is just insane. Like, we've done Wembley, we've done Tottenham.
A bowl, isn't it? It's like a bowl.
It is. It's like it was built for boxing, the way that it is, and the sound that it keeps in there. So, look, I'm not surprised they went back to Tottenham, if I'm honest.
Who do you think wins?
I think Eubank wins again.
Do you care? Can I ask you? Who do you make as favourite?
Eubank. I think it's rinse and repeat, but I think Conor gets closer. I'd like to see Conor win, but the trouble with that is then we've got to have a bloody third, right? Because that will be the next thing, won't it? So let's hope Chris Eubank wins so we can put it to bed.
It would be terrible if you had to watch another third Barnstable.
He would hate it, isn't it? Yeah. He would hate it. Who do you think wins? I know you know both of them, so it's always difficult.
I know both of them, so I don't really like to call a winner.
Who's favourite then?
I think favourite again is going to be Eubank. He's a bigger guy. He's got that, again, attributes, experience, fought the bigger names, etc. Yeah.
He looked so much bigger as well, didn't he? Well, in the ring that day, I thought he looked a lot bigger.
Well,
I know they tried to dehydrate him and take everything out of him, but he just almost ballooned into like a light heavyweight.
It's insane because you see him on fight week, you see them both together on fight week, and you think they look two weight divisions apart. You see him on the weigh-in, they look the same because Chris is completely stripped down, and then the day after when they get in the ring, that size advantage is there again, but it does have an effect on the body, taking all that weight out and whatnot. Like, there's so many ifs, buts and maybes around this fight because of the weight stipulation. It's the same rules that applied before. There's so much, so you just don't know what that takes out of Chris. And, Conor, like you say, is 27. He's improving all the time. The momentum is with him. He would have gained a lot from that one. Can Chris improve again? Can he go to the well like he did last time? Because in round 9, when we looked at Chris in round 9, I remember him walking back to the corner after round 9, and you'll respect what I'm saying. You'll understand this. He had his head down. I thought, that corner's got to do some work because he looks a little deflated. And from somewhere, he dug something out. And it's that championship mindset, I suppose. He dug it out from somewhere and he pushed on because he was the one that looked spent after 9 rounds. And in those final few rounds, the penultimate rounds, 10, 11, 12, you looked at it and you go, That is fighting spirit, man. Where has he found that from?
Championship rounds. He's been there before.
Yeah.
That's what it is, isn't it? It's been there before. All right, listen to Oladipo and Jordan on talkSPORT with Selco Beatles Warehouse. It's where the trade go. More from Spencer Oliver and Anthony Yard when we come back. And we're going to be looking ahead to that August 16th card in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Moses Italma, the future king, some say, taking on a man that I think is going to cause him some problems, Dillian White. Good morning, Ade Oladipo, Simon Jordan, Spencer Oliver, and former world title challenger, soon to be, maybe world champion, Anthony Yard, who fights David Benavidez November 22nd in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Just some transfer news regarding Saudi Arabia. It has been reported that Al Hilal have reached an agreement in principle with Liverpool to sign Darwin Núñez for 53 million euros and add-ons, which could take the deal past 65 million euros. So it's like Darwin Núñez on his way to Al Hilal. All right, let's talk your fight, Anthony. Coming up I say coming up November 22nd. When does training camp start? You look like you're already in training camp, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I'm always training, but this time we're doing it. We've got enough time. I've never really had a long time to prepare for a fight or prepare for a particular opponent. So yeah, we're utilising it.
I did the face-off. I tried to start trouble in the face-off. Nothing happened. Between him and Benavidez, I was trying my hardest. Like, come on, someone do something. And they were friendly. But that was the first time you saw him about, what was it, 3-4 weeks ago?
Yeah.
What's it like when you first made eye contact? Because for me, it was kind of like, oh, this is quite menacing. Because he was there waiting for you at the door. You came in and you both kind of had a look at each other for about 3-4 seconds and smiled and sort of, embraced a bit.
Yeah.
What's that initial moment when you meet your opponent like?
It's another human being, isn't it? Like, hey, how you doing?
And that's how you were, though.
We're punching each other soon. No, literally, you just look at each other. You look at the height, the size. It's just normal. Everyone does it. Even when you see boxers, you're not even prepared to fight yet. You always look at them.
It's just the sizing up,
okay.
isn't it? Like, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'll dip and I'll throw that. It's just one of them things, man. But yeah, there's a lot of respect there. And I always see it as, when there's a lot of respect there and you know who's in front of you, you're due to get a little, barnyard shootout.
And it's going to be a shootout, isn't it, between you two? I think both of you kind of said that during the face-off as well, which will be out on the Zone soon, that you respect each other.
Yeah, definitely.
You know exactly the strengths that both of you have. When you size them up then, I mean, are you looking at a guy that is now a fully fledged 175er? Are you thinking I'm the bigger guy? Are you looking at a guy that's coming up to your weight class?
For me, it's none of the above. If people go back and look, Benavidez was a little fatty.
Yeah.
When he went into the gym, he was big. He was massive. And, I think they said he was going to be a cruiserweight when he started. But then he went down to super middleweight. Now he's coming up to light heavyweight. He could go on to cruiserweight because he's big, he's taller than me. So I'm not really focusing on the weight or anything like that. I'm just focusing on giving it to him. Like seeing if he can actually handle someone attacking his, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's always, it's going to be fun to wait and see.
Well, he's known as the monster, isn't he? And we know what he's all about. He's like 24 KOs out of his 30 wins. He comes, he has a fight, he stands in the ring exactly as you do.
Yeah.
So I think you can get nothing but a barnstormer. Stylistically, you guys don't move around the ring, and you're both heavy-handed, so it's going to be a shootout.
Exactly.
A tactical shootout.
A tactical shootout. I don't think it's just as plain sailing as us just standing there and just
of course.
swinging punches.
That's what I say, tactical. Yeah.
But there's gonna come a time where we start swinging. We start throwing punches. I think that's what's exciting for the fans. That's what's exciting for me. And again, with his personality, I think that's what's exciting for him as well.
I think when you go in there with styles like you both got, it can go like you get that feeling straight away, and it's when you decide to roll the dice, and that might happen as early as the first or second round because he's tagged you with one, you've got to go back, etc., etc. Or it can be one of those that just sort of manifests itself and grows into it, and that's the beauty of this fight. You just look at it and go, I think they'd lock horns early, but it may be a little bit of a chess match at first. You don't really know until that bell rings. The fighters don't even know.
The fighters don't even know. He's known to be a volume puncher. He overwhelms his opponents. I think it's quite similar to Beterbiev, just different stylistically. But again, on paper, he don't hit as hard as Beterbiev, and again, he goes a different way about it. He more plants his feet, throws more punches, where Beterbiev will more jump in, loop in, throw hard shots, and then let off. So again, we'll have to just wait and see which style suits me better.
Where are you now, Anthony? Third world title shot. You've gone into both of the two world titles against Kovalov and against Beterbiev as an underwhelming underdog.
Yeah.
And you've come out, and you're going to not like it, but you've come out with noble defeats. And it's no good having noble defeats. You've got to win. Benavidez now is the third shot at it. How do you are you in a different mindset than you were in the first two fights? Do you like to have respect for your opponent? Do you like to have a bit of rivalry? Do you like to have a bit of needle? How do you like to approach these fights? And how will you approach this fight, given this is the third time you're going in for a world title now? And all of them are difficult.
For me, it's being the best version of myself. There's no pressure on me because I don't care what you think. I don't care what you think. Don't care what you think. I care about what I think of myself. Right. And I'm ambitious. So I want to win a world title. I don't want to be known as a guy who almost done it or the guy with just courage. yes, I've got all them things. Yes, I motivate people from where I'm from or whatever. But for me, it's bigger than that. It's opportunity, and this is why I work so hard. I've always seen myself as someone that's catching up. I started boxing late, had basically no amateur fights. So that's why my mentality is just opportunity.
What have you learned from the 2 world title defeats? But that could be key going into this one. What have you taken from them defeats?
I can take a shot. When it gets gritty, I can still stand in and trade off. I've learned to pace myself a bit better, as you saw with the.
Did you gain confidence from them?
100%. If I watched the Better Beer fight the other day, and he landed some shots which he's put people away with, and I still stood there and said, okay, and then marched forward, and no one's pushed him back until me. So with these things having taken place, I can definitely go into this fight with more confidence.
Not to get nostalgic, I will, but do you look at what you've achieved so far and feel a sense of pride and proud? Like we're from the same neck of the woods, and again, you mentioned no amateur pedigree at all, really, and no red carpet was thrown out to you like it is for Olympians, where you're expected to go on and sort of become world champions. No one expected that of you. You kind of forged that for yourself. Although you haven't become a world champion, do you look at yourself and think, do you look at yourself and think, we've achieved quite a lot? We can sort of have a time to reflect and pat ourselves on the back, or is that once the career's over?
I think it's once the career's over. I know the reality of it. As you're saying, we come from the same place, and it don't happen often. And when I'm walking around my area, I still know the man, acting I'm like I'm normal. Well, I'm not a normal person, but people see me and they're like, what are you doing around here? Why are you on the train? I'm like, what do you mean why I'm on the train? I'm meant to get where I'm going.
Not everyone has a chauffeur like something.
I can get that, but I don't want to sit in traffic for all this time. I want to get on the train where it's 20 minutes instead of 2 hours. But yeah, it is something to look back and be proud of. For me, the proudest moment for me was overcoming a fear of caring about what people think.
Good for you.
Yeah,
well said. Do you think? How do you think, Spence, this fight, in terms of who he's fighting, Benavidez comes with this reputation. There's a question, and I had a conversation with Frank about it, about whether he carries the power up, because in his 2 light heavyweights, he hasn't stopped anybody. Previous to that, he's stopping pretty much everybody.
Yeah.
Do you think this represents, talking about you, do you think this represents the best opportunity for him?
That's what I was going to say. Out of the 3 opponents that he's boxed for a world title, this, for me, would be the best opportunity.
So that is pressure for you, isn't it?
Kovalev at the time going to Russia and boxing Kovalev, who was a heavy-handed monster at the time, and Benavidez. You just look at those two, Beterbiev, and we look at those two and see where Benavidez is. He's the guy moving up, and he's considered a monster, but not like those two were. And I just go if there's a time you're going to win a world title, it's November 22nd.
Yeah, there are monsters, and then there are monsters.
Yeah, absolutely.
Beterbiev and Kovalev, I'm sorry, are monsters.
I've got another question for you. If
we need to go break, you got to hurry up.
This is very quick. Will you feel like you've underachieved if you do not win a world title?
It's not been in my mindset.
Nice.
I'm going to win a world title.
Nice.
There you go. Perfect. Saved me from jumping in. We've got to go break. All right, more from Spencer Oliver and Anthony Yard next. When we come back, we're going to look at the prospect of Anthony Joshua fighting Jake Paul.
Corinthian Casuals are a team in the Combined Counties League Premier Division South. Despite that, they're one of the most important clubs in world football. Here's why. The club was formed in 1939 as the result of a merger between Corinthians FC and Casuals FC. Now, Corinthians FC were founded in the late 1800s when the FA's top brass were absolutely sick of getting pumped by Scotland every time they played them. As a result, Nicholas Lane Jackson set up an amateur side which would bring in the best players who could all play for the national side. And it worked. It wasn't long before England were dominating the international fixtures they played, and it was largely down to Corinthians. In fact, in 1894 and 1895, they played consecutive games where Corinthians provided the entire England 11. But the thing is, the players refused to play professional football. They didn't believe in it. They wanted to spread the values of sportsmanship, competition, and played for the love of the game. It also helped most of the players were Oxbridge graduates who didn't need the money, but instead of entering league and cup competitions, they played exhibition football and toured the world, bringing the beautiful game with them. Think of it like the Harlem Globetrotters of football, and it was this which spread the game throughout the world and made it so popular. Most famously, in 1910, they travelled to Brazil, and the locals in Sao Paulo were so impressed they started their own team under the same name. Yes, the same Corinthians who won the FIFA Club World Cup in 2021, one of the biggest clubs in Brazil.
Welcome back to Ade Oladipo, Simon Jordan, Spencer Oliver and Anthony Yard here until 1 o'clock. Anthony's going to stay with us for another 10 minutes or so. Text come in. It says, Anthony Yard sounds like a proper dude. An inspiration to us all, takes on the best. This one's coming from Niall. Anthony Yard is my favourite boxer, so entertaining and always comes to fight. Can't wait for his fight against DB. Going to be a barnstormer. You getting love?
Thank you, man.
That must be nice as well, getting love from the British public. You know they can just swing.
Yeah,
Like
trust
that.
me, trust me.
Those texts could be from the same person that changes tomorrow.
It's true. No, but again, I do get it when I go out a lot because I feel like some people really appreciate courage.
Yeah.
You know, or people having a lot of talent and, you know, not really trying to monopolize it too much or try to plan it too perfectly. Just like, okay, cool, I'm a boxer. These are the best in the division. These are the people I want to fight. And that's been my mentality from the beginning.
I think people just appreciate it. All right, let's talk, before we talk AJ, Jake Paul, which is a serious conversation, people. Let's talk about August 16th first. Moses Atama, his first headline event, takes on the body snatcher, Dillian White. You first on this. How good is Moses? I mean, you must hear the stories that everyone seems to hear about the sparring and all that. How good is Moses when you're watching him?
I've seen Moses, and I've said this from the beginning, from when he was 18, 19. This guy, he's it.
He's it.
He is it. He is it. This is my opinion. It's boxing. I know it's pressure and all these kind of things or whatever, but he's it.
Why?
He's got skill set, fast hands, footwork. From what I've seen, he's got a chin. Not that you need to be getting hit with these wild shots, because clearly you've done something wrong if you got hit. Good jab, you know. For me, in my opinion, he's it.
He ticks all the boxes for sure. Like, just to echo what you said there, you know, with the boxing IQ, hand speed, punch power. We've seen him take a shot. You know, the rumours come in from the gyms as well. He can take a shot. He has spars with recognised fighters in there, hard spars as well. So he ticks all the boxes. The only things that we don't know about him is what is he like in them penultimate rounds?
Yeah.
When it gets tough, when it becomes psychological over the physicalities. And that's what we've got to see, or what we've got to find out. But so far, you just look at this kid and go, he is the next super heavyweight
What we haven't seen as well is obviously he's headlining this card.
Yeah.
The pressure, the pressure of headlining is different from being the guy on the undercard that no one's asking for interviews. The interviews are going to be multiples now. He's only 20. Can he take that pressure as well? There's a different type of pressure.
I don't think Francis and latterly Frank would put him in that position they didn't think he could. I mean, yeah, you're right. He's got to do face-offs. He's got to carry the press conferences. He's got a personality. Dillian should really be able to manipulate that to his advantage because he's been there. But Dillian was like a mouse when he was in a press conference with Tyson Fury. So there's a debate about how Dillian will be in his press conference. But I think Moses Atoma's got the personality to do whatever he wants. He's very calm, very stoic. It all seems to be going on behind the eyes, and you don't see much from him. I mean, he's being bolder in some of the language he uses now, and a little bit more challenging, and a little bit more demanding of the opposition in terms of who he wants to fight and how he wants to fight and who he thinks he can beat. But I don't think, in the same, he knows Frank very well. Frank Warren doesn't put people into fights that they don't have a significant chance in. And Moses Atoma is a cash cow with due respect to Queensberry and all the different heavyweights they've got and all the different opportunities they've got and what they've done in the last 2 years by changing the face of boxing, by forging this relationship with the Saudis. Moses has huge opportunity, and putting him as headline becomes part and parcel of it. Get him in early, because one of the things you're going to try and do is make sure he's got a personality to cope with it, because when he gets to the next level, and I think he will beat Dillian, and I think he'll beat Dillian convincingly, with no disrespect intended. I just think Moses he's not the light at the end of the tunnel, he's the train. Right, and that's what Dillian's going to run into.
It's all about the development, and I think if Moses is the fighter, which we all agree on, he is, then he will feed off this, and it'll bring a better Moses Atoma out, which is going to be tough for Dillian at this stage of his career. He's been a good fighter and he's been in some great fights, but you just go, boxing is all about timing, man. And you got this young kid that's coming through against a world-class operator that maybe not at his best now, and you go, this is all about timing. And I think Frank Warren is great at doing that, delivering the fights. And I know that Dillian Whyte is working with Frank as well, but Dillian now gets the opportunity, the pension fund, if you like, going in against the young star in Moses. So it's a big opportunity for him to put himself back in the name. Moses is WBO #1 at the moment. So this is Dillian's route back in. But I think we all agree Moses Atoma is he's something special.
Yeah, we've seen this so many times, haven't we? The young gun coming through against the experienced vet. Remember, it's all live on talkSPORT as well. August 16th, Moses Atoma versus Dillian Whyte. Filip Hrgović is on the card against David Adeleye, which should be an interesting fight as well. Nick Ball versus Sam Goodman, world title fight in the featherweight division. All right, will Anthony Joshua fight Jake Paul? Come on, you're AJ's best mate. Get him up, phone him. Or Anthony Joshua, your best friend, fight Jake Paul.
I really don't know, mate. This world has gone crazy. Let me rephrase this. Who's going to sanction it? That's where I'm at on it, right? Because if you, we all know, look what Anthony Joshua had done to Francis Ngannou. Look what he done to him. He iced him, right? Absolutely leveraged him. If you put Ngannou in with Jake Paul now, who would win that fight? Ngannou would be a massive favourite in there.
In a boxing match, would he be a massive favourite? Would Ngannou be a massive favourite in a boxing match? Okay,
huge.
Size is a big thing, you know. I think people will discredit size. Size is a big thing. Size, power, strength.
We live in a crazy world, and I know them negotiations are going on, but I'm just looking at it going, who's going to actually sanction that? Because, this is the hurt game, and someone could get seriously hurt there. Jake Paul is not on that level. I get what he's doing. He's a great marketeer. That's what he does. He sells himself, and he's probably got cojones the size of an elephant. It's that is the reality of it, and he probably fancies that challenge. But come on, man, the fantasy against reality here is
what have they seen? Yes, AJ might not be the top of the tree in the heavyweight division anymore like he once was, but what have they seen to think that AJ's fallen off to that extent that Jake Paul would have any shot at AJ?
But that's if you believe it. I mean,
you don't believe it will happen then?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I spoke to Michael Jarman the other day, and he doesn't. I said, listen, don't worry about legacies. I mean, Anthony Joshua's a two-time world champion at heavyweights. If he wants to fight this kid for 250 million quid, then in 3 or 4 years' time, no one remembered it. He'll remember the 250 million quid in his bank balance, right? So get on with what you want to do rather than what other people think you should do. But Jake Paul's not going to fight Anthony Joshua. Jake Paul's not. Who's he been? He's not been in a live one. He carried. We had to listen to Spencer's old fanny about the Mike Tyson fight was going to be a real one, and we carried him around the ring. And neither should he do. Neither should he do. He's a disgrace. But it's not serious, is it? I mean, Jake Paul is a master of being able to create attention around himself. And Anthony Joshua is not going to go into a ring with Jake Paul in any serious moment in time. Not before he fights for his next shot at a major fight.
Right, let's hear from AJ's promoter Eddie Hearn, who I guess will kind of counter. This is what he said to IFL TV.
We kind of went through the contractual points, and there aren't really any major barriers to make this fight. Like, and I want to make it clear. I'm not sitting here telling you I'm calling for this fight. You know, we've been targeting this fight. I think the fight's a mismatch. I think AJ destroys him. But if Jake Paul wants this fight and he's serious, the fight will happen.
It shouldn't happen though, should it, Anthony? I mean, like, surely someone's got to get involved here and say, okay, look, it's fine. Yes, there's a lot of money to be made, and everyone's pockets are going to be lined with millions and millions of dollars. But ultimately, AJ, and you mentioned size just now, AJ 6'5", 260 pounds, shouldn't be fighting Jake Paul.
On paper, no. But I think we've seen crazy things in the sport before.
Yeah, crazy things can happen with a lot of paper.
Exactly. So,
nothing crazier than this, though. But I know we've seen crazy things in the sport, and we like to say that, but this would be the craziest, wouldn't it?
It would be one of the craziest, yeah.
Like, is this as crazy than Jake Paul, Mike Tyson, isn't it? Or no?
It is the changing of the times, isn't it? And like there's, like you say, like what is crazy these days? Like, you know, some of the stuff that is happening within boxing, boxing being that outlet, you know, that the umbrella of it all. You know, with the YouTubers coming into it, they saw a great market there to come into the boxing and, you know, going against these ex-fighters, Mike Tyson, who you mentioned as well. And you just go, the reality is, yeah, it could happen because that's the world that we live in. And there's a massive audience there, probably end up in Netflix. And there would be a massive audience that financially makes sense for everyone.
And for me, yeah, if we can see Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson, when Mike Tyson was old, 58 years old, suffering with all these back issues, had a was it an asthma attack or something like that a couple of weeks before the fight.
I was out there and he was
in a wheelchair,
steps, mate, and he could barely walk up the steps when he got out of the car.
So if
I recognise that he was
an icon like Mike Tyson, if he can, you know,
if someone can sanction that,
exactly.
Then
so let's have
anything.
AJ and Jake Paul, because I thought it's very similar. It's very similar.
Crazy, isn't it? On the other spectrum, Alex Krasiak, who used to manage Alexander Usyk, I thought did a fantastic job. He's been speaking recently. He spoke to WBN, World Boxing News, and he said this. I want to get your take on this because we continually ask what's going to happen with Alexander Usyk. He said, I don't see him fighting anymore, at least in boxing. He's proved it all. There's nothing more to gain for sure. There's going to be some dossers around pushing him to the ring again. I don't know who he's referencing there. As a friend, I will do my best to convince him to retire.
He'll go into MMA and box Jake Paul or fight Jake Paul.
Yeah. In MMA?
In MMA, yeah. That has been the talks. That are the rumours that are circulating. That is a fight. That's what I'm saying. That's what Jake's bringing to the table, man. You go, now he's switching over to MMA and he's fighting Alexander Usyk. That's a fight that I think has been talked about.
I heard the same thing. I heard it from Andy Lee a couple of weeks ago as well, that there is a lot of talk about Alexander Usyk having a mixed martial arts fight.
Yeah, he'll beat him up in mixed martial arts as well.
It's crazy, isn't it? I mean, Alexander, I'd rather see him retire. Stop this. This needs to be stopped right now. All right, listening to Oladipo and Jordan on talkSPORT with Selco Builders Warehouse. Check out this month's real deals at selcobw.com. Thank you so much to Anthony Yard. Good luck, November 22nd. Obviously, we'll be out there cheering for you. Up next, we're going to be speaking to Dillian White's trainer, Mr. Buddy McGirt, on the show. honest, Anthony Yard loved it. He's still with us. I said he could go. He wants to stay. No, I'm happy for you to stay. Mr. Anthony Yard, it's only 10 minutes. Might as well stay. Well, Ade Oladipo, Simon Jordan, Spencer Oliver, and Anthony Yard. Let's quickly get this man in. He's been waiting for us patiently, and that's the trainer of Buddy McGirt, the trainer of Dillian White, the trainer of Callum Smith, the trainer of so many good fighters at the moment. Buddy McGirt joins us now. Buddy, how are you, sir?
I can't complain. How's everything?
Nothing much. Buddy, how's the obvious question? How's Dillian looking right now? Obviously, look, the last time we saw Dillian, I think to his own, he himself said he didn't look great against Ebenezer Tete. We wanted to see the fight against Joe Joyce. That would have been a good sort of barometer as to where he is. You know where he is. How is he?
He's doing great. To be honest with you, he has a different mindset in this fight than he had with the Tete fight. You know what I mean? I think, when you fight in at different levels, sometimes your mental attitude is different, and he understands the importance of this fight here. This is make or break.
Yeah, he does recognise, Buddy, doesn't he, that it's his last chance saloon. He's going against this young, hungry wolf. He calls himself the old wolf, and he must deliver here. He hasn't looked particularly good since losing to Tyson Fury back in 2022. He said that was down to training issues. He was not in any sort of shape. What sort of shape is he in now?
Well, listen, he's in great shape, right now, and I think a lot of it right now is just his mental state of mind and what he has to do on the 16th to take care of business.
From your standpoint, Buddy, look, again, you've been there and done it as a fighter. You've been there and done it as a trainer as well. When you do have someone like Dillian that's taken on the young wolf now, the young lion, and let's be honest, Dillian's been picked here as almost like lamb to slaughter. What do you do in terms of your training to get Dillian prepared for someone as young and as ferocious and as good as Moses?
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with his mental state of mind. I think if you go in there with doubt, you're going to perform in such a way. But his mental state of mind is great. You know what I mean? He's been working hard. I mean, than I've seen him work in the last couple of years, because I think he understands the importance of this fight. You know what I mean? What it means to him in his career. So, it's all about now going out now, and it's like all about bullets and gun smoke, nuts and guts.
Buddy, Moses has been 11 rounds in his last 8 contests, so he's getting rid of people very, very early. He's dangerous early on. Dillian obviously recognised that. He has that experience. Is the game plan here to take Moses into those later rounds where we've not really seen him, and that's where his weakness could be?
Of course. I mean, if you try to go out there and blast him out, you're playing into his hands because he's young, he's fast, and he can punch. So sometimes you gotta walk him down.
You've been part of the Dillian White team now. Dillian White joined you, right? He left Mark Tibbs and said, okay, I need Buddy McGirt. You've been part of the team for a while. Do you have any say on the opponent? Now, does he come to you, for example, and say, look, okay, this is what we want to do, and then you can kind of give him guidance? Or is it a case of, this is the opponent, get me ready for this opponent, Buddy?
Well, it's like this. In a situation like this, when they come to you, he said to me, listen, Buddy, this is what they're putting on the table for me. I said, so what do you want to do? I mean, I don't want to say, yeah, and you're not feeling it. I want to see what you're feeling. And he goes, I got to go for it. So, all right, let's go. We're a team. So if that's what we got to do, that's what we got to do. I mean, if we got to go through this hailstorm to get to the other side of the fucking rock, we got to do what we got to do.
Buddy, I saw something the other day, and I don't believe you. I want to pull you up on it. I think I saw that you said you haven't seen Moses box before, and you don't watch your opponent's box. But I don't believe you, buddy. I don't believe you.
I swear to you. I will not lie to you.
Why? Why not? Because I understand when fighters say that, but I've never heard a trainer say it before.
Because, okay, how can I gotta try to find a nice way to put this.
Without swearing.
No, it's not even the swearing part. Because of when someone goes to war, right? Sometimes you don't have time to study your enemy, correct?
Correct.
So you gotta make adjustments. When Hannibal conquered Europe, how did they expect Hannibal to get from Africa?
Yeah, but
they expected him to come across on the boats, correct?
Yep.
What did Hannibal do? He fooled their ass. He came through the Alps. They didn't prepare for that. So I'm a believer that if you prepare for any and everything, when you come out, you make the adjustments as the fight go along.
But, buddy, you know, with all the talk surrounding this young man and, you know, talking about him being the next dominant figure in the heavyweight division and his explosive punch power, etc., and being compared to a young Mike Tyson and all of that sort of stuff, surely Dillian's going to have to make these adjustments because he's older, you know, that he's at that stage of his career where he may have slowed down a little bit. So surely it would be of an advantage to study this young kid to go, let's just see how he approaches fights, how he comes out, you know, see if we can set some sort of traps or whatnot. Surely that would be an advantage.
I've never studied anybody that trained opponents. And when I was fighting, I had to study my opponents. I did what I had to do to get in shape and get prepared for war. And like you said, Dylan has been there already. So if we got to make adjustments, we make them.
Not long left, buddy.
So,
sorry, buddy.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, not long left until the fight. When do you travel over to Saudi? When do you start to get acclimated to it? Because he's been there differently.
We got to Saudi this morning.
Oh, you're there now, yeah?
Yeah, I'm in Saudi now, yeah. We got here this morning. We got in like around 6:30, 7 o'clock.
Should be a good one, buddy. Look, we wish you all the best. Again, fantastic trainer.
It.
What you've done with so many fighters over the years has been fantastic. And this might be one of the biggest ones for you. Biggest victory.
Oh, yeah. Hey, if Mr. Yard is still in the studio, tell him I said I wish him the best of luck on his championship fight.
Thank you, thank you.
You know what I mean? God bless, man. You know, you got all the tools. Just got to go handle your business.
That's it.
Buddy McGirt, they're always a character. I always find these American trainers characters, you know.
Yeah, Buddy's he's a nice guy, man.
And he's good training. Look what he's done with Callum Smith as well, by the way.
Great fighter, two-weight world champion as well, back in the day when there was some serious fighters around. The guy could fight, man, so he does know the game. Not sure I agree with, though, if you're the trainer, not studying the opponent. I understand because that was his mindset as a fighter, but the fighter and the trainer sort of totally slightly
that's what I said. I can
think
understand how fighters don't want to do it, but trainers, I'm like, if there's an advantage there, go and watch the tape.
Yeah, where's the tactics?
Yeah, go and watch the tape. Yeah, referencing Hannibal. I mean, there were no tapes back then, so if there's tapes available, you might want to use them. Apologies for any bad language you might have heard as well from Buddy McGirt there as well. Anthony, again, good luck.
Thank you.
Again, wish you all the best and luck in the world. I think you can beat this man, David Benavidez, if you bring your best foot forward. Simon, it's been fantastic with you for the last 10 days or so.
Good man.
Thank you. Spence Oliver, thank you very much
you, mate.
as well, sir. Where are you next, Spence? You always seem to be everywhere.
I'm off Sunday to Saudi.
There you go. See, always somewhere, isn't he? Always
Are
somewhere.
you there?
I am there.
Oh, right.
I'm always somewhere as well. All right, up next is Paul Hawksby and Alex Brooker.